naked from the waist down that day, and investigators say there was evidence of a sex crime. Those warrants also say some of her intimate clothing was found in another family member's room, as well as handwritten notes, one of which said, quote, "This is a murder story."
Investigators also say they saw someone with a mask on video walking by the home early that morning. They say they found a similar-looking mask in that same room. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Trump administration is applauding its decision to ramp up the detention of convicted deportees at the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base in Cuba.
The Homeland Security Department says the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay is now holding what a spokeswoman calls the worst of the worst. Among more than 24 names released are those convicted of crimes ranging from assault, robbery, and drug smuggling to murder, kidnapping, and the sexual abuse of children. The list includes nationals of China, India, Vietnam, the UK, and Romania, as well as several countries in Central and South America.
That's ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 147 points this morning to 44,258. Coming up, it's going to get close to 100 today, and it looks like we're going to hit the century mark tomorrow. KSL Weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. How retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing must-visit shops. And how healthcare offices become the data managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business. Powering possibilities.
Now through July 21st, new Comcast Business customers can find out how to get started with 150 megabit internet and Security Edge for $59.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Plus, ask how you get a $500 prepaid card for your business. Call and switch to Comcast Business today. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and automatic payments with bank account. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Early termination fee applies.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards Credit Card Promotion. How are things looking, Heather Kelly?
On southbound I-15 from Marriott Slaterville to the 12th Street exit in North Ogden. Looks like UHP stopped all traffic for a few minutes to remove debris. The lanes are all moving again. It's going to take time for those delays to clear out. And then once you get past all that, you're going to pass a crash in Farmington and more delays from Kaysville, leaving Kaysville due to lane restrictions as well. Northbound I-15 still very slow getting out of Lehigh over the point of the mountain. Are you a medical practice owner? Join the Hamlin Business Institute's powerful class August 1st in Salt Lake City. Boost profits, reduce stress, and grow your business. Register by July 20th for 40% off. Use code BUSINESS. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Yeah, so weather today's high is looking to hit 99 degrees. Tomorrow we break into triple digits with a high of 100 before cooling off 10 degrees for Thursday and Friday. Right now it's sunny and 81 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're going to break away to Kerrville, Texas, where Mayor Joe Herring Jr. is giving an update on this weekend's deadly flooding.
Now I'd like to call on Lieutenant Colonel Ben Baker.
Morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Ben Baker, Lieutenant Colonel for Texas Game Wardens. I'd like to start out by thanking the mayor, sheriff, chief, our local state partners, Texas Department of Public Safety, and the many others that have responded to this tragic event. We as Texas are strong, and together we face adversity. Your Texas Game Wardens responded in the early mornings of Friday to this tragic event, along with many other local and state partners. Since the early mornings of Friday, your Texas Gamers have had over 300 game wardens in the area, serving the people of the state of Texas and the citizens of Kerr County. Among that, we've searched 26 river miles since the tragic event has started. We've had approximately 444 rescues, 30 recoveries. Some of our resources and assets we have dedicated to this tragic event include 2 helicopters with hoist teams, 12 teams, 10 canine units, 9 swiftwater boat crews, 15 airboats, 16 UTVs, and 169 four-wheel drive vehicles. Your Texas Game Wardens will remain here and serving the community. We just ask you to continue to pray for the victims, for the families, for your first responders, for everyone involved. We'll open it up now to questions. If anybody has any.
Can you talk about how challenging it is for you guys in the mud, the big trees? What's it been like with the terrain?
We're listening to a live press conference from Texas from the local law enforcement officer who's giving us an update of what they've done there.
Out there. Your local, your state partners, Texas Task Force 1. We've got the National Forest Service out there. We've got A&M Forest Service. We've got numerous responders with specialized capabilities where we've got these large pile of debris. And with our canines and you know, when we're trying to make these recoveries, these large piles can be very obstructive. And to get deep into these piles is very hazardous. And those specialized teams have to go in there layer by layer because our first responders, also the safety of them is concerned. So it's extremely treacherous, time consuming, it's dirty work, the water's still there. So we're having to go layer by layer, peeling these off to make those recoveries. So we're...
What about mentally? Like when you guys stumble across something like a Navy deceased, how do you process that?
Absolutely. We process it the best we can. We have professionals in place, our crisis intervention team. All the agencies have some members representing there, and officer wellness is a first responder wellness is a key component to these operations. So we're maintaining and monitoring our officer wellness, our first responder wellness. We're making sure they have the support. It's very tragic whenever you see human life, but to see a child and that loss of life is extremely tragic.
More rain is expected to come down west of us, and eventually it's going to get down to Guadalupe River. Is that going to put a halt to the searches? And if not, how are you going to change the trajectory of the search and rescue operations?
So with the water coming down, that is always a concern, and I'm sure you've been monitoring the last couple of days where we've had some reports of maybe some additional water coming in. Obviously, that's going to impact the search and recovery efforts. Us with numerous other agencies do have air capabilities, drone capabilities. We've got numerous fixed wing, rotary helicopters here. So it will alter our patrol patterns and alter our searches, but it won't deter them.
Can you outline what specific discussions and actions were taken between the time the first flood emergency alert came in at 1:14 a.m. and then when the river first started flooding homes hours later? What were the specific actions and discussions that happened in those hours?
Can you repeat that again, please?
Sure, absolutely. I would like to know if you could outline, please, what the specific actions and discussions were that local officials took between 1:14 a.m., that's when the first flood emergency alert came out, and hours later when the river first started flooding homes. What happened in those hours?
What I can tell you, when I was first notified, it was around the 4 to 5 area. One of my sergeants was in dispatch when the first calls started coming in, the actual 911 calls come in. It was between 4 or 5 when I got notified. Okay, but prior to that, in that 3 to 4 area, my understanding is, and we're in the process of trying to put a timeline. That's going to take a little bit of time. As I've told you several times, that is not my priority this time. There's 3 priorities. That's locating the people out there, identifying and notifying the next of kin. That is what I'm taking as my job as sheriff here to do. Okay.
With all due respect, sir, I think that the community here is asking these questions. What happened? When did it happen? Was the emergency manager awake at the time? Did they push the button to issue an emergency alert?
Sir, it's not that easy when you just push a button, okay? There's a lot more to that. And we've told you several times.
So did it happen, sir?
I can't tell you at this time.
You can't tell me if the emergency manager of the county actually issued an emergency alert.
Okay, Sheriff, who is
Shimon, just give me a second.
Emergency Operations Center? Who runs
Let him answer the question.
The Emergency Operations
I'll come back to you. I'm going nowhere.
Appreciate it.
Who runs the Emergency Operations Center?
We have a communication center, a dispatch, okay? We have a communication center. That's where the calls actually go to the police department, then they're forwarded to us.
But leading up to this, in monitoring the weather, there is, in any large city, in any state, there's an Office of Emergency Management that is monitoring the weather, that is watching and listening and getting briefings. Who was getting those briefings in this city, in this county? Who was receiving that information? And who would have ultimately made the decision to evacuate, hearing what was coming in from the Weather Service and other people?
Okay, what we would have done when we get notified, okay, I'm gonna tell you that.
You're not emergency management though, right? The sheriff's not EOC.
No, there is
Who
no,
is
I meant
EOC?
as the city. Yeah, help me with that.
So we understand you have many questions.
Right.
Hang on.
No, I understand, but you're not gonna answer the question because that's up to the city manager and the mayor to answer those
Correct.
questions.
It's the county emergency.
We understand you
That's
have
the
many
judge. Where is the
questions.
judge? The judge is not here.
We understand that, but right now, this team up here is focused on bringing people home. That's our focus. All those questions will be answered, but the priority right now
It seems like you're
is
ducking
bringing
the-
people home.
We totally understand that, and we value the incredible work that is being done by those first responders. We're seeing them out there muddy and sweaty and grinding it out day after day. But your community is asking these questions.
And we will
Was
get
there an emergency
answers.
manager in the county
Right now,
awake at
all
the
of our
time?
resources
Or
are
did they issue an
focused
alert?
You should be able to
to
answer
recovery.
who was in charge of the Emergency Operations Center at the time that was getting any briefings.
Do we have another question?
If any
I
briefings.
do. I think I focus on what local people can be looking for. We're looking at some erosion in roads and safety and them traveling, what can we tell people who live here right now and what they can do in their daily life? Should they worry about traveling on roads? Do you know anything about that infrastructure?
Sure, absolutely. Jonathan Lamb, Kerrville Police Department. So we know that there's substantial road damage. Some roads have been closed for safety. We've got crews out there in the county, shoring them up and making sure that people can travel to and from. What we're asking for the public to do to assist us is if they believe that they have seen someone, a victim, notify emergency services. Call 911, let us know, or use our non-emergency numbers, area code 830-257-8181. Contact our dispatch team and we will send officers out there. We also ask folks to limit their travel. Our first responders have had a very difficult time getting to where they need to go because of the amount of people who are flooding our roadways. We understand there's natural curiosity. People want to come here and see the flood damage. Now is not the time for sightseeing. This operation is ongoing and continuous, and it will continue. I've got time for one more question. Last question. As far as I know, the last live rescue, unless there's new information, and I don't believe there is, was made on Friday. All right, I'm afraid that's going to have to do it for this morning.
Can someone answer if the bodies have been released to the families, Sheriff?
We've been listening to live updates from the Kerrville, Texas authorities about the flooding that occurred this weekend. It seems to be wrapping up. We want to talk to a person who's actually there after the break. We're going to take a short break and then come back.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Imagine struggling with a slow, outdated computer that takes forever to load anything, that randomly freezes up and is filled with viruses and malware.
Now picture yourself with a powerful desktop or laptop that runs smoothly and efficiently, making your work and entertainment seamless. Take one home today. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else do you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
Hey there, it's Julie from Logan, where we know how to celebrate summer. First, something super cool when it's really hot. Logan has a new plaza downtown with music and games and a splash pad for kids. Well, I said kids, but hey, we don't judge. Jump in. Free Alive After 5 concerts and movies at the plaza Wednesday and Friday nights. Check out the calendar at ExploreLogan.com. Keep it cool by checking out live tribute concerts like The Monkees, Elton John's The Rocket Man Show, and the Neil Diamond Experience. If theater is more your style, see the musical Bright Star, Broadway's The Prince of Egypt, or the classic comedy The Importance of Being Earnest. After all, Logan is Utah's heart of the arts. Fresh mountain air is only 10 minutes from your hotel. Enjoy cooler temperatures in the canyon while you hike, mountain bike, picnic, fish, or sing yodelay-hee-hoo at the top of your lungs. Everything's cooler in Logan, and we've got a lot going on. Check out the calendar at ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
The new Inside Sources.
We started this morning's show with a live press conference from Kerrville, Texas. Authorities there telling us updates on the search, and it seemed like a lot of the questions were really dealing with the warning. But I want to get to the search first, and we have with us Jim Ryan, ABC News correspondent, who's there in Kerrville. Jim, thank you for joining us this morning.
Sure. Yeah, we now know that 87 people have died in the storms here. The number rose 3 since yesterday at this time, and included some of those who were at Camp Mystic, that girls' camp where 750 girls had just begun their month of summer camp. So, yes, the number of missing is still dramatic. 20, 30, or of course we don't know how many people might have been camping on their own and not associated with any of the campgrounds or summer camps. So yes, we now know that 87 people have died in Kerr County alone. That brings the total deaths from this entire event to about 107 from several different counties across central Texas.
I have a quick question for you that I haven't seen answered elsewhere. How, out of 750 girls, it sounds like the vast majority of them were able to be rescued. Yes. How did that unfold, the rescue?
Well, it was just a matter of realizing what was going on. The camp counselors are the ones who had smartphones. The Camp Mystic, Holly, is a place where cell phones are not allowed. The girls check in, they start their summer camp experience there, and it's intended to be a screenless experience. That is, no cell phones, no technology, laptops or tablets. And that may have been part of the problem here. They couldn't get warnings on their phones because it was 3:30 in the morning anyway. But once the counselors realized what was happening, they began to shepherd the girls out of the camp. The ones who were able to get onto buses or to get away from the danger did so. But this group of 27 or 28 closest to the water simply couldn't be evacuated in time, and unfortunately they perished, and some are still missing now today.
Jim, it seems like a lot of the questions, at least at the press conference, dealt with the warning system and whether there was warning. There does seem to have been some confirmation that there were some significant warnings. Maybe people didn't take them seriously, but what do we know about the National Weather Service and the local authorities in terms of them getting information out that there was a flash flood coming?
Yes, well, the National Weather Service that covers this area, the Hill Country, is based in New Braunfels, over south of Austin, and they actually added 2 people to their staff going into the week last week when they saw that bad weather was a possibility. So they were staffed up. On Thursday, late Wednesday, early Thursday, they began issuing advisories about the possibility for flooding here in this area, that thunderstorms, that the weather was being set up for severe thunderstorms in the watershed, the Guadalupe River watershed, and began issuing these statements. But again, the girls at that camp didn't have phones. The camp counselors were asleep like everyone else, and cell coverage out there in Kerr County beyond Kerrville itself is pretty bad. And that's part of the draw. You get away from your devices and you're out in nature, the trees, the river, and the isolation. But those very things, the isolation, lack of cell coverage, the river and the trees, all of it combined to be a death trap when flash flooding strikes.
Is this the first time that Camp Mystic has been flooded?
No, this area has seen flooding, and again, this is sort of tagged as Flash Flood Alley, Holly. That's what people refer to it as, because flash flooding is a way of life here. It's a fact of life because of the hilly terrain, because of where we sit. In terms of Gulf moisture combining with Pacific moisture, combining with moisture from the South Plains. So flooding is a problem here. The last deadly flood like this came in 1987 when 10 kids who were being evacuated from a camp, another summer camp, were lost. Their bus was washed away and they died. So this does occasionally happen. I talked the other day with a woman who was here in the 1950s as a child, and they had flooding that year. Nothing too serious, but yeah, it does occasionally happen.
Jim, we're looking at some footage of the area, and it appears that the flooding, or at least the storm, has subsided. Can you just tell our listeners what you can see, what the level of damage is?
Well, it's dramatic, and right alongside the Guadalupe here in Kerrville, the river is still running fast and running fairly high, but it's receded back into its banks. Alongside the river, you see trees, whole forests of trees, it looks like, that were pushed down by the water in the floodplain as this wall of water came through Kerrville. And that's been the situation all down the course of this river, about 25 miles. And it's that area between the river and the banks of the river that people are being sought, that people are out searching for any more victims. Just really mountains of debris, and I'm not sure how they're ever going to clean it all up.
Thank you for joining us, Jim. We've been talking with Jim Ryan, ABC News correspondent who's on site in Kerrville. You know, one of the things that I noticed right as we were joining the press conference is the mayor of Kerrville was saying, thank you so much for all of the in-kind donations that you have been sending to us, but we need to get a new system in place because they've been overwhelmed. In fact, if you remember, we asked Jim yesterday how people could help, and he said money would be the best if people could just donate to legitimate organizations because they can be so overwhelmed with these in-kind donation, and then that can actually create its own problem, really, because they have so many.
Yeah, it's a little bit tragic, although not unexpected, that the questions are now sort of going more toward the warnings and the notifications. I mean, there's still people missing. There's a number of people missing in that area, and the poor law enforcement are doing everything they can to find people, to try to still rescue some people. There are a number of people still missing, but having to answer questions about the notification and whatnot.
Well, I think that's part of the conversation too, right? So I mentioned as we were getting ready to talk about this that I saw on X that there is somebody who identifies himself as a storm chaser. Like he does weather for a living, and he said he doesn't take storm or flash flood warnings all that seriously and wondered if other people do.
Right. You know, some reporters were asking some questions of these officials we just heard a minute ago about the notifications.
So we understand you have many questions.
Right.
Hang on.
No, I understand, but you're not going to answer the question because that's up to the city manager and the mayor to answer those
Correct.
questions.
County emergency.
We understand you have many questions.
The judge is not here.
We understand that, but right now, this team up here is focused on bringing people home. That's our focus. All those questions will be answered, but the priority right now
It seems like
is bringing people home.
We totally understand that, and we value the incredible work that is being done by those first responders. We're seeing them out there muddy and sweaty and grinding it out day after day. But your community is asking these questions.
Yeah, and I think the community is going to ask some questions, but I think right now the law enforcement is correct that it's still a rescue mission.
I think really it's been a recovery mission. In fact,
Right.
one of the questions they asked is, when's the last time you found a person alive? And it was Friday.
Yeah. You know, people talk about these flash flood warnings or whatnot, and I'm just looking at the National Weather Service because it's something I have done periodically as we travel around the national parks. And we have the National Weather Service actually issues 4 levels of warnings for our national parks. And I assume that would have been similar to what they had done in Texas, although I can't say for sure. The green is not expected. Flash flooding is not expected. Yellow, some slot canyons, dry washes, and small streams may experience flash flooding. That's possible. Probable, some slot canyons, dry washes, and small streams are expected to experience flash flooding. And then expected, the red, many slot canyons, dry washes, and streams are expected to see flash flooding. It appears from the timeline that we've seen from Texas that there was some significant
escalation
of, hey, we need to get something going here. So, I mean, the blame game shouldn't start. And I think even yesterday when we were listening to Senator Ted Cruz, and we don't need to play that, he was talking about, hey, let's deal with that later. This is a Republican Democrat
it's been coming from both sides. But I have a question for these really quickly. If you are a hiker in Utah in these national parks, how would you be notified that there was maybe a high danger or a high possibility of these floods?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that people can get a system or get something on their phone, an app or something like that, so that they can be updated. But generally, what I think the authorities would tell people is to read the warnings before you jump in, because the National Weather Service has a good forecasting ability. They know what's going to happen in the next hour, day, or week. And so I think it behooves you to, when you're going into our slot canyons or national parks, that you at least check the National Weather Service, which is very easy to access. When we come back after the break, search warrants are being unveiled about the details of some shooting deaths of an 8-year-old and his mother in Saratoga Springs in March. We'll talk about that after the break.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section and after Dad's back injury. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. Willard Bay is dropping about 2 feet every week, and by August will be at 50% capacity. Officials say not to worry, though. They're just doing repairs.
A siphon sends water to Compass Minerals and the bird refuge from the reservoir, and the CEO of Weber Basin Water Conservation District, Scott Paxman, says now it's corroding from the inside out. The siphon was installed in the 1970s and has had to be repaired several times. They were supposed to have another repair in 2022, but prices that year tripled. Now that costs are back down, Paxman says it just makes sense to replace the whole system.
We hope to have it all done by this winter. That's the schedule, to have it done by January.
Although water levels will look alarmingly low, Paxman says there'll be enough there to keep boat ramps open. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Trump administration has announced plans to secure U.S. farmland and farmers from bad actors abroad. The Farm Security Plan aims to ban nations like China from having a stake in farming or farming production. Here's Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins.
American agriculture is not just about feeding our families, but about protecting our nation and standing up to foreign adversaries who are buying our farmland, stealing our research, and creating dangerous vulnerabilities in the very systems that sustain us.
Rollins says she's already canceled several contracts with foreign entities. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 138 points to 44,267. Coming up, it's going to be near triple digits today and tomorrow. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 9:32.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. That's right, it's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
This is the story of the one.
As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Hey, that's the spirit. Right now, we're celebrating free with a free STP oil filter when you buy 5 quarts of oil and free Duralast brake pads when you buy 2 rotors. Like always, free battery testing, charging, and recycling at every store. Celebrate free at AutoZone, now through July 28th.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got delays southbound I-15 as you leave the Draper area approaching Bangerter Highway all the way toward the point of the mountain. Looks like we've got a crash in that area. Haven't seen how many lanes are blocked, but just be aware that's going to take you extra time to get into Utah County, and also some rubbernecking happening northbound I-15 out of Utah County as well. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Going to be a hot couple of days. KSL looking to hit 99 degrees tomorrow, 100. Right now it's fair and 82 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
This next story, Holly, is really troubling, but we're getting some information involving some search warrants which have been unsealed involving a double homicide that occurred in Saratoga Springs on March 28th this year. And for our listeners' benefit, if you've got some kids listening, this might be a segment to come back to later. But there was well, let me have KSL News Radio's Virl Johansson give us the background about this case.
Andy and Amanda, police say Jessica Lyman's 17-year-old daughter called them to the house in March after finding her mother and her 8-year-old brother Eli Painter unconscious. Officials say Eli died from his injuries on the scene while Jessica died at the hospital. Police say Jessica's 15-year-old son was also at the house, but they didn't release many more details at the time or in the weeks that followed. Virl Johansson, KSL News Radio.
So one of my questions for you, of course, is, well, what are we learning now that these warrants have been unsealed?
Yeah, so after a homicide investigation like this begins, Holly, police will go into the house and try to get information. They'll do what's called a search warrant. And the important part of the search warrant isn't the warrant. It's the affidavit. It's the probable cause statement. It's what the officer says. We want to search this because we know this. So we're learning what they know. We're learning these search warrants that were filed just shortly after the homicide, which was late March. So these are search warrants that were issued in April, and so there's like a 90-day window. The public has a right to know what's in these. So they're releasing some of these affidavits
because it hit that 90-day mark.
Right. I'm assuming that's the timing of this. Why we're learning about it now. There may be more later, but the search warrant is really telling in some respects, and maybe not so in others. But yes, there was a woman who was killed, and her 8-year-old son was also there. The woman lived for a short time and died at the hospital later on. The little 8-year-old boy was pronounced dead at the scene. We don't know yet whether or not the mom was able to give the police any information before she passed away. We don't know that at all. It's not included in the warrant. What is included in the warrant is the investigation, what they had done to that point, including a next door neighbor's doorbell camera, which had included some video of an individual walking sort of between the neighbor's house and the victim's house wearing a mask. And at about that same time, we also know from, it seems like the forensics or maybe the medical examiner, that both of the victims were killed with a small caliber gun, probably a .22. The small caliber rifle or handgun doesn't necessarily matter. So so the police were looking for a gun. From what I've seen in the warrant, they hadn't found one. But the warrant does seem to indicate that there was some questions about a 15-year-old boy who was there at the house at the time. Now, I'm not saying he's anything more than just a person who was there at the wrong place at the wrong time, but he was not part of the homicide. He wasn't killed, and their investigation included some inquiries into him and his conduct and what he'd been doing at the time and his room and some things that they found in the house that are, I think, problematic for everybody if you read between the lines.
So one of my questions, of course, is going to be, well, what happens now? Right? No arrests have been made. I know that when the story first broke, I mean, my first thought was this must be another murder-suicide, but then it came out that it's a double homicide. Nothing seems to have happened.
Yeah, that's a little odd because the homicide occurred in March 28th. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a bit, and police don't have a suspect yet, at least that we know of. I'm assuming if someone was in custody and charged with this, we would have heard that. They're still doing some investigation. I'm assuming that there's been an autopsy done, so we know the cause of death and the manner of death. Whether or not the police can focus in and say this was definitely not a murder-suicide, I'm assuming we got there too. We also don't know if they found a weapon that was used in this. I mean, they found some things in the 15-year-old's bedroom that, like a BB gun, but this clearly wasn't a BB gun homicide.
Right.
They found some other things. He clearly was sideways with his mom. Does that create some motive? Who knows? I mean, there was some tension between the two of them. And they've also found some evidence that the mom had been sexually assaulted. And so I would assume because of that, Holly, that they would have done a DNA test. Mm-hmm. Now, that isn't something you can do overnight. And the state crime lab is incredibly good, but they may take some time to do DNA. And, DNA, this would be a high-profile DNA. It wouldn't be something that you would do. Right. You would, we can get to it in a couple months. It's probably something they started immediately. But without that, the police are probably still a little bit reluctant to make an arrest or to make a public statement that they have a suspect or somebody that's in custody or going to be charged with this crime.
Yeah. So what's going to happen? Is this going to be like, what can we expect for the timeline on this now that it's been more than 90 days.
Yeah. Well, you can expect
pushing 100.
Right. Yes. Or more. You would expect that the people of Saratoga Springs would be going, do we have a murderer in town?
Right?
Is something done? Is there some reason why we haven't solved this case yet? And time is important in a case like this. Police don't seem to be feeling like there's an immediate threat of danger, that there's something still going on.
To the community.
Right. Although they, this poor 17-year-old girl comes home. She'd been with her father. She walks in the house. She sees her mom and her half-brother on the floor dying and soon to be dead. And obviously that was upsetting for the people of Saratoga Springs when you see 20 police cars in a cordoned-off area. So they have every reason there to feel like, okay, what's going on? And I'm sure that the questions are going to be coming fast and furious, especially since we're unveiling these search warrants, because I'm certain, just because I've done this for a while, that there was more than one search warrant. So we may be getting another affidavit in a week or two, and another affidavit sometime after that. We may be seeing some charges. If it does involve a minor, that adds a second level or a deeper level, I guess, of confidentiality and reasons why the police may not give that information, including his name, and he's presumed innocent. So I don't know anything more than there was some reference in the search warrant that he's more than just a person who was present at the time.
Right. One of the stories that I've looked at, and this was with a KSL story actually, that said they did find a note that said this is a murder story.
Yeah. Yes, and that was sort of the headline. That among the things they found in his bedroom was a note that said this is a murder story.
That's so concerning. Yeah,
I know. It's concerning on so many levels. This case, I worked a case similar to this when I was at the district attorney's office back in the 90s, and it was really problematic. A case here in Salt Lake County that involved the death of a mother and at least one other child and it turned out that the crime was committed by her stepson. This kid is her natural son, as I understand it, her own flesh and blood. He would have been the half brother of the other victim. Although, again, we don't know his involvement or what he did, but we do know that the search warrant has some information about him that is a little bit problematic. We'll probably have updates on that as the days and weeks come, Holly. But when we come back after the break, some Utah lawmakers, including the Speaker of the House, rallied in support of a doctor who started a trial yesterday in federal court here, who is accused of falsifying documents and destroying tens of thousands of dollars worth of vaccines. This is during COVID. Were they justified to support him? We'll talk about that after the break.
Hi, I'm Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. When the IRS invades your life, keep in mind, it's not just you.
My name is David. I was in trouble with the IRS. I owed about $140,000. It was a very stressful thing to know that you owed that much money to the IRS.
Don't face the IRS alone.
When I knew how much I owed, it was really, it's overwhelming. It's you worry about the whole, your whole world, what's going to happen.
With everything in your life at stake, don't trust just anyone.
Everything was said and done, and with the IRS offered me to pay $4,000.
You need someone to fight for you.
Do not hesitate. Do not think it twice. Go see Jordan Wilcox.
Visit endtaxworry.com. Put an end to IRS collection and aggression today. That's endtaxworry.com.
Anybody that needs help in this situation, please go see him.
endtaxworry.com.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
Have you seen those billboards that have a giant turtle on them that say win a new air conditioner? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and you're probably wondering, what's that all about? Well, the turtle is a character in our new TV commercials that'll be airing this summer. I know it's kind of silly, but we're always trying to figure out how to grab attention and stand out in a crowded market. We thought a big turtle would do the trick. Another thing we're doing is every week this summer, Any Hour is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer. We're calling it the Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. Here's how it works. This summer, if you get an estimate to replace your air conditioner or purchase a new air conditioner from Any Hour Services, you'll automatically be entered into our weekly drawing. If your name is drawn, Any Hour will pay for your air conditioner, up to $8,750. We just want to meet more homeowners that are in the market for a new air conditioner and have the chance to earn their business. We're confident that once you have an Any Hour technician in your home, you'll see why we have over 28,000 Google reviews. No purchase is necessary. See official rules at anyhour.com.
From iconic headliners like the Beach Boys to tributes of your favorite bands like the music of Journey, Utah Symphony's Deer Valley Music Festival brings unforgettable music to the mountains, with the full power of the orchestra behind every note. Pack a picnic, bring your crew, and make it a summer to remember. Tickets are on sale now, and they're going fast. Secure your spot at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com. Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Sure, humans can be a little weird at times. But take it from me, I'm a dog. And a person is about the best thing that can happen to a shelter pet. So if you want to learn how you can be that person, get down to your local pet shelter or visit theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources.
A trial began in Utah yesterday, a federal trial just down the street from us, Holly, involving a Dr. Michael Kirk Moore, who is accused of operating a vaccine scheme out of the Plastic Surgery Institute of Utah in Midvale. The indictment, this is a federal court case, issued in 2023, charges a couple of his employees as well. But what the federal prosecutors are alleging is that the doctor and his employees, discarded nearly 2,000 doses of the COVID vaccine and issued fraudulent vaccination cards, and at the request of some parents, administered saline injections to children to make them believe they had been vaccinated. So the court records show that this doctor and his co-defendants destroyed at least $28,000 worth of government-provided COVID-19 vaccines and gave fake vaccination cards in exchange for cash payments and donations to private organizations that this doctor was a member to. So the 15-day trial started yesterday. We're still doing jury selection. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting and why we're talking about this now is that some people have shown up at his trial to show support for him for falsifying these documents and destroying all these vaccines.
Including the Speaker of the House, Utah Speaker of the House. So
right.
There were several legislators there yesterday, but one of the things that's interesting to me is the question really with President Trump back in the White House. And of course, he was president when COVID started, and he was there when he was saying we're going to shut down everything. We're going to, stop travel. In fact, I was in another country when the border started closing, barely made it back. And so sometimes I think people forget that. But when COVID kind of shut the world down and we were asked to wear masks and we didn't know all the science behind it, there were still people saying, hey, look, I want to go wherever I want to go. And if I don't want to wear a mask, I'm not going to wear a mask. And then when vaccines became available, they wanted to be able to have the choice to say, I don't want this vaccine. But private businesses were still able to say, hey, look, if you want to come into our business, we want you to show a vaccine card. And so I think now, years later, the question I have is with President Trump back in the office and RFK Jr., trying to make America healthy again, who's not really pro-vaccine, why is this even still a case?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because you would think that given RFK's comments about this, in fact, what he did was he issued a statement saying Dr. Moore deserves a medal for his courage and his commitment to healing. So, whoa, you wonder why President Trump hasn't pardoned him and said but maybe they're waiting to see how the trial shakes out.
Can you do a pardon preemptively?
Well, once he's indicted, you can.
Okay.
I mean, pardon usually includes a conviction, but I'm assuming that the president could pardon him. There are some questions whether you could pardon somebody for a crime that may have occurred in the future, although we've seen that before with
preemptive
President Biden did it for his son,
and
others have done it. But yes, at this point, I think the president could jump in and get the case. I mean, his Justice Department's prosecuting it, and they're going to do what he says.
Yeah.
If he tells them back off, they're probably going to do that. But this is a federal case. And like you said at the outset here, our own Speaker of the House is there rallying support. There were like 60 people at this event yesterday. The problem, though, I think, is this, from the legal perspective. Whether or not you hail and support the doctor's decision to say, look, I don't support these vaccines. I'm going to give you a make-believe shot or a vaccine card. There's fraud there. That's a fraudulent act. I mean, and whether you feel like it was justified or warranted under the circumstances, a doctor shouldn't be doing that. And I think that's the federal court case, is that, okay, you can have your feelings about vaccines and whether they're good or bad, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can say you're a hero, but you still shouldn't phony up something like that.
Yeah, I think for me, one of my concerns is if you're choosing not to vaccinate, and we're seeing this with measles right now, if you choose not to vaccinate and you are willing to take the risk to put your own health at risk potentially, does that give you the right to go into public spaces and infect people who are already maybe more vulnerable than you are, right? They're in a different health category, and people allowed you into their business because you fraudulently said that you had gotten the vaccine when you didn't. So you're actually putting other people at risk by those actions. I mean, I think there's an argument for public safety where if you make your own decision, that's fine. Do it in your own home. But when you're risking a community, I mean, that's an issue to me.
Yeah, and if you recall, I actually went to an establishment over here on State Street during that period of time, and they wouldn't let you in unless you produced a vaccination card. I mean, you literally had to have the card with you to walk in. It was a restaurant. And I thought, okay, well, I had one, so it didn't matter to me. Was I troubled by it? Not necessarily, because I got the vaccine. It didn't matter. But you're right. So what happened was, what would have happened is people would receive the exact same card I got.
That's right.
But they didn't get the vaccine.
That's right.
So they're walking into the same restaurant
right.
without that protection,
right.
probably without a mask, and they're putting me and others at risk, especially others that you know are more at a high risk. And I think that's what the federal government's trying to preclude and trying to say, you know, that you put lives at risk when you did that.
One of the things about pandemics, I think, is that we just don't know a lot, right? And we do have them come around. This is about 100 years after the flu pandemic, the influenza pandemic in the early 1900s. And we saw a lot of the very same things. I'm not going to wear a mask and you can't make me. And yet people were literally dropping dead on the sidewalks during that pandemic in the early 1900s. This is a different type of disease, and we are still not prepared for the next one, right? Are we going to have the same type of reaction, right? And that's one of the questions: is at what point does public safety override personal freedoms, right?
Right.
I don't think anybody was going to hold you down and force you to take a vaccine, but if you're a private business owner, did you have the right to say, hey, we want to protect our employees and the people here? Probably, right?
You probably did. And we learned so much from that. I mean, do you recall just a week or two ago, one of our state health officials gave a press conference about measles in Utah. And someone asked, well, are we going to shut things down? And
that's right.
And she's like, no.
Is this another
mean,
epidemic?
Yeah, we learned so much from COVID. I can't imagine an illness or a virus or something coming into our system that would ever cause us to do what we did with COVID. Because even though, looking back, it may have made sense, it may have saved a lot of lives, the cost, I mean, just this case that we're talking about now, people found ways to override it, to disregard it, to actually a doctor creating fraudulent documents. Surely he was going to get caught. I mean, there's no way he wasn't going to not get away with this, because people were going to him knowing
I think he was advertising.
Right? Yeah, I'll give you a COVID card, thinking nobody's going to come after me. But I mean, that's his duty as a doctor, is to not create something like that.
Yeah, it's just part of an interesting conversation, right? Is where do personal rights, begin and end, if anywhere, and how does that impact our communities? And the COVID conversation is an interesting one, and there's still legislative pushback on actions taken by the previous administration, saying we should not have shut things down. And yet our state was acting on recommendations from the White House, and President Trump was the person in the White House saying we need to shut everything down. We need to shut down churches. It was the presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that said we're shutting down all temples. We're not having any in-person meetings, right? And then when church leadership said this is a modern day miracle, and I think that changed a lot of minds in Utah, perhaps. But we know that about 70% of Utahns were fully vaccinated during the pandemic. And, people, again, 30% decided they were not going to go that route.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were waiting for the vaccine to come out and for it to be available.
Widely available.
Others were saying, I'm not going to get it, which I completely understand. But we're seeing the effects of not getting vaccinated with this new measles thing. And so people who think vaccines, well, I don't want to go down that road, but there are people who are concerned about vaccines, and maybe there's some justification for that. The medical community doesn't seem to support that, although we're talking about a case involving a doctor.
That's right.
A trained medical doctor who felt strongly enough about the COVID problem and the issues that he was giving false documents allegedly about vaccines. When we come back, more than 180,000 Utahns receive help with their groceries through the SNAP program. Cuts to that program are likely. We'll talk about that after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, newly unsealed search warrants are revealing more information in the case of a mother and son shot and killed in Saratoga Springs earlier this year. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
Police say 44-year-old Jessica Lyman and her son, 8-year-old Eli Painter, were shot in their home back on March 28th. But new warrants are revealing Lyman was also found naked from the waist down that day, and investigators say there was evidence of a sex crime. Those warrants also say some of her intimate clothing was found in another family member's room, as well as handwritten notes, one of which said, quote, "This is a murder story."
Investigators also say they saw someone with a mask on video walking by the home early that morning. They say they found a similar-looking mask in that same room. Your money at this moment, the Dow's down 61 points, but that's leveled off from what it was down a little bit earlier. It's 44,338. Coming up, 99 today, 100 tomorrow, and then it cools off to the low 90s. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:01. The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you bundle renters and auto with Progressive, you can save while protecting your most valuable possessions, like your really expensive limited edition sneakers and your new suit for your cousin's wedding. Except you never actually bought the suit because you can't stop buying sneakers. So you show up to the wedding looking like you're going grocery shopping. But hey, at least your sneakers will look good in the pictures. Until you're cropped out of every last one of them. So go ahead and get Progressive, so you can save while protecting the things that matter to you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Market volatility isn't slowing down. If you're nearing retirement, now is not the time to wait and see. Every day of uncertainty can put your future at risk. It's time to diversify. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I want you to know you can create certainty, locking in guaranteed income for life. This means predictable, stable cash flow, even in turbulent times. You've worked too hard to leave your retirement to chance. Right now, there are options to receive up to 30% upfront or annual growth of up to 10% for retirement income. That's up to $30,000 upfront or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't wait. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any examples provided are hypothetical. Annuities are issued with prospectus and sales brochures and should be reviewed carefully before funding as features and benefits vary. DBA in most states as Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Let's check in with Heather Kelly.
We've got pretty good speeds right now across the Wasatch Front. A little bit of slowing northbound I-15 through Midvale, where we had an earlier crash that's now been cleaned up. But just a heads up for anybody coming out of Weber and Davis counties, in about 15 minutes, there's going to be a military processional funeral happening. So you're going to see some delays on I-15, Hillfield Road, that's SR 193 going across Layton over to US 89, all the way down into Bountiful as this procession continues. From system install to fast fixes to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical, call Whipple Service Champions for the win today. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, today's high is looking to hit 99 degrees. Tomorrow, we hit triple digits with a high of 100 before it cools off about 10 degrees on Thursday and Friday and then starts to warm up again through the weekend. Right now, it is 86 degrees and only slightly cloudy in a few spots. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So, Greg, we've talked before about the SNAP program, and that is kind of the new name for food stamps. They're not stamps anymore. It's like a card, right? But it's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and more than 180,000 Utahns use that program right now to get help with their groceries. But since the One Big Beautiful Bill passed and has been signed into law, we know that there are cuts coming to that program. And one of the things I think that's going to happen is not only will families not be able to go to the grocery store to get assistance with their groceries, they're probably going to be going to local food banks, but those food banks are already being strained in Utah. And it's one of the things that I think is concerning is, right, okay, so who is going to pick up the slack here in helping people to feed themselves and their families? So we're actually joined this morning by Jeanette Bott, who's president and CEO of the Utah Food Bank, to talk to us. Welcome, Jeanette.
Jeanette, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. What can you tell us about what may happen to recipients currently of the SNAP program and how that can affect what's going on with the Utah Food Bank?
Well, I think the thing that's frightening right now for food banks across the country, not just here in Utah, is that everyone is, assuming that food banks and pantries in any state can pick up the slack, and we really can't. And there's some reasons for that. First of all, it's if you look at the structure here in Utah, the Utah Food Bank is kind of the grocery broker, if you will, and we distribute to over 300 pantries throughout the state. And these pantries are all different sizes, and they're open different days and they're open different hours, but the infrastructure is really critical. If you have a small pantry, and just because they have more people coming to them, they can't take in any more food than they can already handle. So we have some size limitations of these smaller pantries on being able to handle an increased number of recipients. And the other challenge is here in Utah, our food supply right now is really very strong. We do really well with donations, and we haven't seen a change in that. But some of our peers across the country are seeing massive changes in donations. They're having to purchase more food, which means their budget and donation outlook is really taking a hit or a change. And so just because the need is there doesn't mean the food will be available. And if the food is available, that doesn't mean that the infrastructure of the pantries can handle the onslaught. So it's kind of a ripple effect, and we're very, very nervous that the assumption of people for food pantries to pick up the slack is accurate, because it really isn't.
I really think that's an important point that you make, and thank you for clarifying. It's one of the things I think that sometimes people who have never been in that position assume that there are other places for people to go than the SNAP program or other sources. Are there ways to maybe increase education, or how can people get the word out that there are still going to be families in our community who are experiencing hunger and food insecurity?
It's really interesting, because sometimes in Utah I'm still surprised that people will question me that do we really have a problem with hunger here in our state? And we do. It's very, very valid. And we distributed more food this year than we ever have, even during COVID. So the need is high before this bill went into place. And if you look at Utah Food Bank, we're an emergency food assistance program, meaning we're here to supplement a family. We're not here to take care of the family as a whole. If you look at the amount of food I give a family, say, for example, what we can provide one meal, SNAP could provide 9 meals. So there's a big difference in the comparison of the number of meals that family can get. So as it starts to change, we're going to have to be much more vocal on asking people for help. And you always hear us, and you have for years, as I ask for food, time, or money. And those are always the 3 things we're going to need, but we're going to have to see that more. And then with that is going to have to come some education that the pantries will have to give to recipients, that those applying for the SNAP program will have to hear from the state level about the changes in this program. And unfortunately, there isn't one place that really is a be-all, tell-all to educate people about these changes. I think it's going to be tough for family, and the reality is going to be very, very shocking, I think.
Jeanette, I'm not sure all of our listeners understand how the food bank actually gets resources. You said time, food, and money, but are your donations? Is everything you receive generally from donations?
So, we look at, of course, we have a large operating budget, so we have a lot of fundraising we have to do. And about 46% of the financial support that we get are from individuals throughout the state who donate. Then we have folks who give us product. Those donations, we call them in kind. And we're fortunate that we have a great system of grocers in the state. We have a lot of food manufacturers in the state. We have a lot of farmers in the state. So we have a lot of groups who give to us product that then we turn and distribute. But the key there is we don't charge the pantries for it, and the pantry doesn't charge the end recipient. It's all passed through for free. So, we fundraise at a high enough level that these small pantries don't have to pay. In most states, they do pay the food bank that's giving them product for that product. And we know that a lot of the pantries in Utah can't afford that. So we fundraise at a level high enough that we can pass it through to the end user free of charge. The challenge that we have as an organization is if we need more food, we need more space. Unfortunately, we've gone through some renovations and some expansion the last few years, and we do have additional warehouse space, so space isn't a problem. But we have to continue to be positive that all those folks we talk about that donate to us are still going to be able to donate, whether it's you as an individual, your costs are going to go up, so are you going to have less money to give to nonprofits? Or the manufacturers who make food, are they going to continue to manufacture at a high level, or are they going to cut back? There's so many variables right now that none of us can control. It's really a frightening kind of space and time to be in.
I have one final question for you, Jeanette, and just as a reminder for our listeners, she's the president and CEO of the Utah Food Bank, and we're talking about Utahns experiencing hunger and food insecurity. So my question is, do you anticipate the potential for opening more food banks? And I guess the second part of the question is, do you think other organizations, including churches, will need to also step up here?
Well, I think that, that's a big one. As far as the Utah Food Bank, personally for us, we are concerned about the organizations that we give product to being able to stay open. If we see a lot of these small entities who have a lot of government funding because they have multiple programs, if all of that government funding goes away for all of those programs, how do those small entities stay open? So we're really concerned over the prospect of realistically, some of our 310 pantries may have to close. If that happens, Utah Food Bank then goes out with what we call a mobile pantry. We take a semi-truck full of product. We go to a parking lot. We did it during COVID, and we serve people from a truck, a couple of days a month. We have the ability to do that with our trucking fleet, but that isn't a long-term answer. But as far as opening more facilities, we may have to if the small ones can't continue to keep their doors open. And as far as churches, I think churches are going to have to be very diligent in helping their congregations as much as they can on their level. And I know we all talk about the welfare system that's in place, and the LDS Church is doing a great job with their program. But I know in conversations I've had with them, they have some of the same concerns I do. They can't be the answer, and they can't supplement all of these situations that are going to be created by this bill.
Thanks, Jeanette. That was Jeanette Bott, President and CEO of the Utah Food Bank. And Holly, we know that 180,000 Utahns receive help and groceries through the SNAP program. We also recognize that the One Big Beautiful Bill is going to cut that number back. The Utah Food Bank is already doing a great job. But let's say it just cuts back that number by 10%. That's 18,000 Utahns who are suddenly going to need help from a food bank because they're not getting it from the federal government anymore. And that's got to put a tremendous amount of pressure on organizations like that.
Yeah, and the number that Jeanette mentioned to us that really stood out to me is that for one meal the food bank can provide, SNAP can provide 9. Right. That's going to have a really deep impact.
It really will. When we come back after the break, RFK Jr., who we talked about earlier on the COVID issue, has gone to war with M&Ms. You don't want to fight with M&Ms. And they are fighting back about food dyes. We want to know, would you eat M&Ms or Skittles if they were not brightly colored? Text us at 57500. That's 57500. Text us how you feel about discolored M&Ms.
Regardless of how old your air conditioner is, there are a few things you can do to help it last as many summers as possible. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and like so many things in our life, it's easy to take our air conditioner for granted. If you keep a clean filter, rinse the outdoor unit off every once in a while, and have it serviced once a summer, you can reduce your risk of unexpected breakdowns. But eventually it will break down, and if someone tells you that your only option is to replace it, don't be afraid to get a second opinion. You could save thousands of dollars repairing it instead of replacing it. Any Hour rarely comes across an air conditioner that just can't be repaired. That doesn't mean you won't choose to replace it anyway, but being told you don't have options, that's not cool. So if you want honest answers and straightforward options, give Any Hour Services a call. And remember, every week this summer, Any Hour Services is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer as part of our Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. No purchase is necessary. You can see official rules or schedule your service at anyhour.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. We have this military funeral procession that has just started in Roy. It's coming out of Hill Air Force Base. This entire procession is going to get onto southbound I-15 down into Clearfield, exit at SR 193 and head east over to US 89. From there, it will head south into Bountiful. You need to start expecting delays and allow extra time if you're in Weber and Davis County this morning's heading southbound. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, Go Pave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact Go Pave Utah. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Are you struggling with pain in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, or lower back? At the Good Feet store, we recommend having high-quality support in all of your shoes. Our personalized arch support system has helped countless people find relief, like Karen. Here is her Good Feet story.
After I decided my pain was too much, and my doctor actually suggested that I do visit the Good Feet store. Pretty amazing when they put the arch supports in your shoe and you walk around and you realize there's not pain and you think, how can this arch support in my shoe make my back pain go away? But it works. And how can it make my knee pain go away? It was incredible.
Come to the Good Feet store today and see what we can do for you. Good Feet arch supports are in stock and available in over 300 different styles and sizes.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Stop in today at the Good Feet store.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Inside Sources.
Okay, Holly, so I have a confession to make, and that is this. If I have a bowl of M&Ms in front of me, I will always grab the red ones.
Really?
Even though I've learned that they all taste the same. There's nothing different except maybe what may be involved with the food coloring, but they're all basically the same. And so we're asking our listeners, would you eat, because we're talking about our
removing food dye,
moving food dyes out of M&Ms, Skittles,
right.
Fruit Loops, other things. If we take the color out, does it change the taste? Does it change our perception of what we want to eat? And we want to hear from you. Would you eat colorless M&Ms? Text us at 57500. Me, I already don't like the brown ones. I'll go straight for red.
That's so funny. You know, it's really interesting. There's a New York Times article, and it's they have a really bright picture of a bowl of M&Ms, and one of the things that they include in there is research to say actually they do taste different. People say they're not as appealing and they don't taste the same. They've tried it with kids, they've tried it with adults, right? And it's like there's something about the visual appeal that makes us want to eat things, and that includes our candy.
Yeah, and you remember this song?
Red, you go to my head. Yellow, so sunny and mellow. Green, you chocolate beauty queen. Chocolate is better in color.
Chocolate is better in color.
So it really is. It's really interesting. And, you know, part of this approach from RFK is we're going to ask people to voluntarily remove food dyes before we go for the hammer. And so there are a number of companies, and they've said they'll remove it out of Jell-O and they'll take it out of Kool-Aid. But the candy companies are like, no, thank you. We talked about doing that once. In fact, about a decade ago, M&M's, or the Mars company that does both M&M's and Skittles, they were talking about taking the artificial dyes out of the M&Ms, and it just didn't sell. It just didn't go anywhere. And one of the things that M&M's does as a company now is that you can actually get custom M&Ms made. If you want bright, bright pink, you can get bright, bright pink. If you want your face on them, you can get your face on an M&M.
There you go. Yep.
It's a little weird. I've done it, but it's weird. We actually have on the line with us Representative Kristen Chevrier, who can talk to us about food dyes and colorless M&Ms maybe, but can also talk to us about the issue about SNAP. So thanks for joining us, Representative Chevrier.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So we're talking a little bit about the pushback from the candy companies on RFK's approach to food dye. Do you have an opinion on that? Do you care about the color of your candy?
Well, obviously, bright colored candy is fun and enticing, but we're not talking about white candy. In fact, we want to get rid of titanium dioxide, which makes things white. So there are other ways of coloring candies. You don't have to use the synthetic dyes to do it. So if I'm being honest, I don't eat that much candy.
Healthy. It's good. That's good for you. Yeah. So it's just.
But there are other ways of coloring it. So it's not like we have to have the artificial dyes.
Right. It's just one of the things I think that the food companies are saying, look, we can't sell as many if they don't have these bright colors. And you're right about is it titanium dioxide making things white? They're taking that out. But but trying to take out these reds and yellows. They're dragging their feet.
But there are other ways, and other companies are doing it. Macaroni and cheese, Kraft macaroni and cheese is not colored with dyes anymore.
Right. They're colored with turmeric.
We have, and that's actually an anti-inflammatory, and it's good for you. So there are other options, and I think that the pushback is just mostly because these companies are making more of a profit if they use the cheaper method of coloring, and then also they just don't want to change things. But what I am seeing is that the movement for people to go from toxic colors to healthier foods, even though candy is never really going to be healthy for you, but it can be less toxic, I guess. I think that movement is very strong right now. I think that the younger parents right now are seeing the impact that these dyes are having on their children. We have a huge increase in ADHD, and parents see a difference when they stop using the colors. So I think that we should be voting with our wallets. If you believe that this is an issue, if it's a problem for your children, then go for the M&M knockoffs that are not using the toxic dyes. Buy the products that are actually changing their methods to be healthier and to create a healthier product instead of continuing to buy the Red Vines. I don't know if you know, but Red Vines has a dye-free version. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Are they still red?
They are pink.
Not as appetizing. Well, before we get to a lot of our texters about their color, let me ask you this, Representative Chevrier. Can you just give us a response to what's happening with respect to the big, beautiful bill as it relates to SNAP here in Utah? And we just had a guest in our last segment from the food bank talking about the increased pressure that they're probably about to receive based on the fact that less people may be eligible for SNAP funds.
Okay, so just what I've gathered on this is that Utah has a 5% plus error rate, and the error rate is the accuracy of distributing funds based on qualifications and need. So we are under 6% on our error rate, and if you're over 6%, you lose funding. So there are 9 states that are under the 6%. And those states aren't going to be losing funding.
Okay, well, that's really great to know. That's breaking news for us.
Yeah, so there are a couple of requirements that do affect Utahns, and that would be the work requirements where it's both of these are work requirements. Right now, the rule is that you have to keep working until the age of 54 in order to receive benefits. That's been extended to age 64. And then the other one is that when your youngest child is over the age of 14, then you have to start working 20 hours a week or volunteering 20 hours a week. You have to be doing something to help the community 20 hours a week in order to continue to receive funding.
Yeah.
But as long as we stay below that error rate, we don't get our funds cut.
That's good to know, actually.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Representative Chevrier. It's a topic I'm sure we'll be coming back to, but we have to take some time to read these text messages. I think we're getting more about the M&Ms than even our dad jokes the other day.
Yeah.
So let me start, and you can jump in anytime, Greg, but here's some of our texters. I would probably buy and eat more M&Ms if they weren't as brightly colored. Maybe the artificial coloring is a good deterrent to keep me from overindulging, but at the same time, I may not buy more if the natural coloring meant a big increase in price.
Yeah, and somebody else says, does it still have the sugar? Yeah, okay, then I'll still eat it. But somebody said, I just wouldn't eat plain colored. I wouldn't either. I would find them to be far less appealing. Yeah, if they just didn't have that color.
One reminds us that Skittles released a gray version in 2021, and they were okay, but changed their perspective, right?
Well, you have to wonder what went into making it gray. That almost seems more offensive than whatever food colors make it.
Black and white mixed.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
I don't know. And somebody says this, do you remember this? How do we taste the rainbow?
Oh,
If the Skittles, how do you taste the Skittles rainbow if you take all these colors out? One says, no, I would not eat plain colored. Another one says, no, leave my M&Ms alone and my Fruit Loops.
Yeah, one said that, I don't know if this is true, red M&Ms weren't around when I was a kid. They were added in the 90s, so just take them back out. I didn't know that.
And and I think this is valid, you will never get the same color profile using a natural color as you do with the artificial colors. The natural colors will fade and wash out and are dull. Typically, artificials are just consistently bright.
There you go.
There
Boy,
you
we have
go.
a lot. Leave my M&Ms alone and my Fruit Loops. Okay, we have a ton of texts here. This one we got a lot more love than I expected. But
We love
we're
M&Ms.
out of time. When we come back after the break, we're on a healthcare roll today. Coming up next, we're going to talk about how weight loss drugs are literally reshaping America. Stay with us.
M&Ms.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story, Salt Lake City police are looking into a crash near 700 East and 200 South. A young driver reportedly hit two pedestrians in the crosswalk late last night. One of them is in critical condition. Police say the driver stayed on scene and is working with investigators. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The search continues for missing girls and a camp counselor in Texas. Here's ABC News Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman in Kerrville, Texas.
Stuart Gross, who works for the city of Ingram, is still haunted by the cries of his neighbors.
To me, it's a graveyard. It's sacred ground. And there's people that are probably still right there and that may never come back. They're under gravel, they're under trees. You know, and it's real hard not to feel bad because I know some of these people.
The Guadalupe River shattering a near-century-old record, cresting at over 37 feet.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is reacting to the tragedies in West Texas. The North America Southwest Presidency saying, "We mourn and pray for those who lost loved ones and friends in the wake of the devastating floods. And at a time of such an unimaginable loss, we believe the Lord is extending his hand to uplift and comfort those whose hearts need refuge at this time of sorrow." Your money at this moment, the Dow's recovered from some early losses. It's only down 26 points right now to 44,378. Coming up, we've had emergency traffic with a funeral procession affecting traffic. We'll check traffic and weather together next. KSL News Time 10:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
For nearly 70 years, Les Olson IT has been the trusted name for businesses. From state-of-the-art printers and copiers to managed IT services, we have the solutions you need to stay ahead in today's world. And now Les Olson IT is trusted and licensed in Utah for security systems, for technology that helps you work smarter. Les Olson IT, providing solutions that empower your business.
Les Olson IT.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now there's a new way to take charge of your blood sugar.
Introducing new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula from the makers of the nation's best-selling garlic supplement. New Garlic helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels with clinically supported levels of garlic, plus a custom blend of vitamins and minerals, and it's odor-free. Take charge of your blood sugar with new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed.
Time for a check of traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, the funeral procession that started in Roy up at Hill Air Force Base is now on US 89 in Layton, just passing by Antelope Drive, heading toward Oak Hills Drive. It's in the right lane. It's a little bit slower than the rest of the traffic, but not really causing too many delays at this time. You just need to be aware of that. That procession is going to go all the way into Bountiful to the cemetery there. The only real slowdowns we have are on I-15 southbound between Kaysville and Farmington due to lane restrictions. And we've got some brake lights showing up right now northbound I-15 through Sandy, but I haven't heard of any accidents there. Where mountaintops meet motivation, Snow Pine Lodge in Alta offers a stunning distraction-free setting for your next leadership retreat or client hospitality. Mention KSL and get 20% off Snow Pine catered food. Visit snowpine.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today. Take good care of your pets and wear sunscreen. We're going to hit a high of 99 degrees tomorrow. Triple digits with a high of 100 before things cool off about 10 degrees on Thursday and Friday. Right now it is already 88 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Holly, I don't know if you remember when this drug Ozempic came out, that Ozempic, they had ads and commercials.
I do.
And it was this great diabetes drug. But I remember watching one of their ads once, and it said, side effects include weight loss. And I thought, oh boy, they just opened up a big old door, right? Who doesn't want a drug that side effects include weight loss? And so that drug, even though it was developed for one purpose, seems to be incredible. And I know people in my own family who use it as a weight loss drug.
So we get to talk about that and how weight loss drugs are literally reshaping America. It's really an interesting conversation, especially on the heels of talking about M&Ms. But
right, yes.
But I have to share before we even start with our guest, who's Lois Collins today. I have been on Ozempic for the original reason for which it was intended. So I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I had high blood pressure, which is a family trait in my family of origin. And I ended up on Ozempic about a year ago, and really, really stubborn inability to lose weight, all kinds of the issues that I think kind of come with that. And I've lost 35 pounds on Ozempic, but I'm down almost 70 pounds from my peak weight, and I feel a whole lot better than I used to. So imagine that.
Do you still take it?
Yeah, I still take it, and I am intending to continue to take it. I also have some atrial fibrillation, right? I mean, one of the things that just comes as you start to get a little bit older and a family history of it, and it's one of the benefits, I think, is that there's some evidence that there are positive impacts on heart health, too, with this Ozempic. But Lois Collins is joining us in studio today. She has written a piece on literally reshaping America. But if you recall our last visit with Lois, we talked about obesity in America, so it's just a great tie-in. Welcome, Lois.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Talk to us about weight loss drugs.
So it's interesting because you talk about the side effect being weight loss, and I think that happens with a lot of different medications where they try it for one thing and then it spawns new set of drugs because it causes something like that. There are a couple of different types of drugs that are really popular right now. And we hear a lot about Ozempic and Wegovy. Wegovy is specifically for weight. Ozempic is for A1C, blood sugar control, although they both do both. It's different doses. Mm-hmm. The other one is tirzepatide, which is found in Mounjaro, which is for, that is for A1C control. And then Zepbound is for weight control. And the difference is they're very similar in one way in that they both work. They're called GLP-1s, and I could bore you to death by telling you what that stands for, but you wouldn't thank me and you wouldn't remember. The GLP-1s help your. It's a hormone that's released naturally in the body that helps you feel satisfied. It slows your digestion. It does a bunch of things that. There are 3 or 4 different things it does that make you feel full, so you tend to lose weight. You eat less. They both do that. The tirzepatide also works on a different related hormone, does the same kind of thing, but it's like a double punch. So some people think that tirzepatide is better. Part of it depends on how you react to side effects. The side effects are no joke for some people, and for other people, they're like, I had a little bit of diarrhea, no big deal. But
is this with the Zepbound?
With all of them.
Okay, with all of them.
With all of them. You have similar side effects. You could have diarrhea, or you could have constipation, which is the opposite problem. Nausea, vomiting. I talked to a number of people who went off the drugs. One of the doctors that I talked to said that half of people who are on the drugs for weight loss will not be on them in a year because they just can't deal with side effects. And the other half basically don't have any side effects. So you kind of don't know till you try it.
Well, I have side effects, but I'm on it, I think, at least long term, because it has done so much for my overall health.
Oh, yeah. And for the blood sugar control, it's really a major thing. And you know, when they talk about all the things, there's this long list of things that they think these drugs might help. Almost all of them are related to weight. And I asked about them because I actually have the other problem. I tend to be underweight. I tend to have to work hard to keep my weight up. And that's a medical problem too. And when I talked to doctors about it, I said, so I'm concerned about Alzheimer's because it's in my family. I'm concerned about heart disease because it's in my family. Would I benefit from these? And they said probably not, because it's probably related to the aspects of those conditions that are related to weight and to being overweight.
Wow.
Lois, has there been enough study and enough time with these drugs to know whether and to what extent people will take them, they'll lose weight, and then they'll quit taking the drug and then gain it back? Or do people tend to stay? Do you know what I mean? Is it the kind of drug that you just have to, once you're on it, you have to stay on it to keep your weight down?
There are 2 different thoughts on that. The first thought, and this is a major thought, is that just taking them for weight, taking a magic pill, is not going to do it for you. You need to change how you eat.
Sure.
You need to change your exercise level. You need to do all those lifestyle things additionally. If you do those things, several doctors told me that you probably don't have to be on them forever, because you've changed the way you've eaten, you've changed a bunch of your patterns that may make a difference. For some people, the weight definitely comes back, and it may have to do with why you gain weight. You know, we all have different reasons for why we do or don't gain weight, and so it's probably related to that. People who are on it for a short term, lose 35, 40 pounds, go off it, have not necessarily changed how they eat, then they're going to gain the weight back. There's no question.
So talk to us about the cost of these medications. So Ozempic is a name brand, right? It's always going to be more expensive. Where are we in that conversation about cost?
So during about 2 years ago, and I might have my timeline a little bit off, it might be 18 months, but there was a shortage. They said they had a supply chain shortage. And the brand name drugs, the FDA allowed compounding, using semaglutide or tirzepatide to make compounded versions of these.
Can you explain that just a little bit more?
So compounded is you go to a pharmacy with the doctor's prescription, and the pharmacy makes up the drug. You're not buying a prepackaged whatever. So there are lots of things that get compounded. And there are specific pharmacies that do it. Not every pharmacy does it. But you go to a compounding pharmacy, they make up the formulation for you. And it's never exactly the same as like Ozempic or Zepbound, because nobody has their exact recipe. So when that was allowed, it's all great. It was out of pocket. Insurance doesn't cover that, so it's about $500 out of pocket, which is about what people pay for if their insurance covers the brand name version. Now there's no shortage, and there are all sorts of legal challenges going on, because now the companies, Eli Lilly, which does the tirzepatide ones, and the Novo Nordisk, who does the Ozempic, Wegovy ones, don't want people compounding them anymore. They're like, we don't have a shortage. This is our recipe. And the pharmacies are suing back saying, well, it's not your recipe. Semaglutide does not belong to you. Your recipe belongs to you.
Right.
So we're adding vitamins and supplements and different things. And there's a caution there, too. For some people, it works very, very well. There's a difference between compounding pharmacies. I talked to one woman who had been to 3 different compounding pharmacies to see if she could beat the price. Wow. And she had very different side effects and very different results. And the other thing is that with the compounded version, there's nobody looking over. The FDA is not approving
the compound.
The recipe.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't know if you're getting exactly what you think you're getting. It's not like you're getting a knockoff that's identical.
We've only got about 30 seconds, Lois, but do we know if insurance companies are pushing back on these drugs if they're only being used for weight loss instead of to treat something like diabetes?
Some insurance companies won't cover them at all unless you're like very, very, very obese or you have other documented health conditions that go along with obesity. They say that's a cosmetic problem.
Right. That's what I was wondering. Yep. Yeah. Interesting. Well, thank you for joining us, Lois. That was very good. When we come back, imposter alert. Today, we are learning how AI was used to mimic the Secretary of State's voice in phone calls to some very important people, including foreign ministers. Let's talk about that next.
Imagine waking up every morning with a smile you're proud of. No more hiding, no more pain. Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's Best of State winner for 3 years in a row, has helped thousands of people ditch the dentures and say goodbye to missing or broken teeth. Their expert team specializes in giving you a permanent, natural-looking smile with dental implants that feel and function just like real teeth. With over 2,000 5-star Google reviews, their patients say it best.
Dental implants gave me my life back. I feel confident again. I feel like I can be myself.
There was no way I was getting dentures. Getting dental implants from Stubbs Dental has been the best decision of my life.
Let the expert team at Stubbs Dental help you take the first step to changing your life with dental implants. Schedule your complimentary consultation today, a $350 value, absolutely free. Visit StubbsDental.com today. That's StubbsDental.com. StubbsDental.com.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Everyone loves the look of granite countertops, but they aren't the only option. When it's time to give your kitchen, bathroom, or basement a fresh new look, start at CountertopFactoryLLC.com. Countertop Factory offers high-quality laminate countertops that look amazing and cost just 1/3 of the price of stone. Yeah, you heard that right, 1/3 of the price. And these aren't your grandma's countertops. You'll get that luxurious look and feel without emptying your wallet. And with beautiful varieties of colors and patterns, it's easy to find something affordable and durable that fits your style perfectly. Countertop Factory installs most countertops in only 7 to 10 days from when they measure. That's faster than you can binge watch your favorite series. And it's not just countertops. At Countertop Factory, browse cabinet options to match your new countertops. All professionally installed to ensure everything looks flawless. From homes to offices to schools and hospitals. Get started 24/7 at CountertopFactoryLLC.com. That's CountertopFactoryLLC.com.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Hey, that's the spirit. Right now, we're celebrating free with a free STP oil filter when you buy 5 quarts of oil and free Duralast brake pads when you buy 2 rotors. Like always, free battery testing, charging, and recycling at every store. Celebrate free at AutoZone, now through July 28th. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply.
Join KSL and the Movie Show this Friday from 10 to 1 at the Salt Lake NPS Store at 1600 Empire Road in Salt Lake City. That's npsstore.com.
It's going to be a hot one before you know it, and that means now is the time to get your lawn ready with an application of Revive Organic Soil Treatment. Revive takes every drop of water deep down to the roots, where your grass can use it. Use Revive in early summer. It's the protection your lawn needs to stay lush and green during the hot temperatures coming. With Revive, watering twice a week is like watering 4 times a week. You'll save water, you'll save money. Spread it, spray it. Use Revive now. It works.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
An imposter pretending to be Secretary of State Marco Rubio contacted foreign ministers, a U.S. governor, and members of Congress, sending them voice and text messages that mimic Rubio's voice and writing style using artificial intelligence. This is according to a senior U.S. official in the State Department cable obtained by the Washington Post. This is crazy.
Yeah, and also not that surprising. It's one of the issues that has become elevated, I think, as AI has gotten better and better, and we've talked about deep fakes before on this show. So this is one, man, I think the implications of this could really be significant, right? So what happened is they had invitations sent to ask people to join a Signal chat was one of the things that happened, right? And remember, this is after we've already had the Hegseth Signal chat gate, where he included a reporter on some really sensitive war plans.
This is crazy. So U.S. authorities don't know who's behind this yet, but they believe that the culprit was probably attempting to manipulate powerful government officials with, quote, the goal of gaining access to information or accounts. Obviously, that's the case, according to a cable sent by Rubio's office to the State Department employees. So, I mean, people are looking into this, trying to figure out what's going on. But artificial intelligence, Holly, it seemingly has no end to its good and bad. I mean, every time we learn more and more about it, we learn, boy, it's got some great things, but boy, with great things comes some great consequences.
Are you Spider-Man? Look, this is an article from a year ago. It's quick and easy to clone famous politicians' voices despite safeguards. This is from an NPR article a year ago. But one of the things that happened during the last presidential election is there were during the primary, actually. So this is with President Biden. There was a political consultant who sent out voice messages in Biden's voice. So AI generated in President Biden's voice, telling people they didn't need to go vote, that the vote would be later in the year. They didn't have to show up to the primary, right? That I think was easily discovered, but I think as we get more and more sophisticated in artificial intelligence, it's one of the things that politicians are really concerned about, because you can have deep fakes where they look legitimate. They're standing there. It's their likeness, their image, their voice. They're speaking up. And they're talking about maybe something that's totally contrary to what their actual position is, or sending out these messages of, hey, your vote isn't needed.
Right. And you talked about the Biden call. Let me just play it, and you can see if you can tell the difference.
Bunch of malarkey. We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election.
Sounds like Joe Biden. And
right.
if I heard that off the street, I'd say that's
right. And
that's
it's a robocall, right?
Talking.
Yeah.
You have to imagine, you just mentioned this, but lawmakers, both nationally and locally, will have to start addressing these problems, these deep fakes, and maybe they have a little bit, but there has to be some legislation that's clear so that when somebody does this and they claim, well, it's my First Amendment right, I can pretend like I'm whoever I want. But if there's an intent behind it, and
there's an intent to deceive,
right? The criminal law always looks for something something like that. If there's intent to deceive, and then it can cross the line between First Amendment and criminal penalties, and something that I think lawmakers have to address.
So Utah lawmakers have been doing that, and I think that was part of the discussion with the stripping out this AI regulatory component from the One Big Beautiful Bill. We've talked several times with Utah lawmakers about that component being taken out, which really would have prevented states from regulating AI for a decade. And one of the things that the Utah legislature did this last legislative session, so earlier this year, was actually pass a bill specifically aimed at AI use in political campaigns. And one of the things that they said is that if you use AI in an ad, whether it's an audio ad, visual ad, or a printed ad, you have to have a disclaimer that it was made with artificial intelligence, either completely or in part, right? So if you're doing an ad that, whether the background is AI generated or, the voiceover is AI generated, you have to disclose that, or there are criminal penalties in the state of Utah. So they are getting ready, but I'm telling you that there's stuff like this where you've got somebody mimicking the Secretary of State. Man, the implications.
Yeah, and it can be illegal as all get out, but you still have to find out who's behind it, and that's often the problem too. Like who created this? There was also an email impersonation, so people were getting Signal accounts for the display name marco.rubio@state.gov,
which is not his actual email.
Which is not his email address, but if you receive something like that,
it looks legit.
State.gov seems like a .gov seems like that would be legitimate.
Yep.
But in this case, it wasn't. I mean, I'm sort of asking a question that I should be able to answer, which is how does the recipient, how do they recognize what's going on, or what should they do? And I should be answering that question because there are a lot of things you should be doing.
That's one of the questions, right? And I don't know about you, but I've had to have additional training on not being taken in by phishing emails, right? Where they look legit and your boss says this, or you've got to complete this training or whatever. And boy, if you look at some of the return email addresses, you can tell, right? When it says .ru, please don't use those. That's Russia, right?
Right.
But there are definitely things where they can mimic an email address, and people clone your social media accounts, and people will say, "Oh, you've been hacked." Actually, a lot of times it's you've been cloned. And so, a number of times I've had friends reach out to me and say, "Hey, there's somebody on Facebook who says that it's you, but it's not you because we're already friends, right?" And they're trying to generate, whatever. Maybe it's to generate controversy. Maybe it's to generate sales. I don't know. But I would say it's nefarious in almost all accounts.
Sure. And artificial intelligence, Holly, has gotten to such a sophisticated level that you plug in enough statements by Marco Rubio and enough written documents that he's published or stated or emails, and you can clone. You can say,
style.
okay, this is his style. This is how he speaks. This is his this is how his inflection, and they're his writing style. These are the things that he puts in his writings. And so even maybe a person that knows him well and is going, well, that's something Secretary of State Rubio would say. I'm going to buy it.
Right. We're talking about, for listeners who are just joining us, we're talking about an imposter who is pretending to be Secretary of State Marco Rubio, sending messages by voice and text, imitating the secretary. And here's one of the things about ChatGPT. You just said they can imitate his style. So ChatGPT, this large language learning model, has become sophisticated enough that you can input something that you have written and said, do this in the style of Shakespeare. Do this in the style of, you pick whoever, relatively famous person you want, and ChatGPT will generate something, and a lot of times it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, and these were sent, as we indicated earlier, to some foreign ministers, at least one U.S. governor, and at least one member of Congress. So these are sent out, like you say, phishing, but they're also sent out to gain information, to get intelligence information, to get access. So you respond, and then suddenly you're in their system, and they can start communicating with you and learning things that maybe they're not entitled to get.
Foreign intelligence, I don't know, but my first thought for me would be to say this is a foreign government trying to gain, insight.
Sure.
This will change the nature of the game.
Yeah, and artificial intelligence is really, I don't know, I was very skeptical of it early on. Now it's something you can't avoid, and I think, at least in my recent profession, being a lawyer, you almost had to have it before you could write things anymore.
Look, so the FBI knows this is a problem. In May, they issued a warning that malicious actors were impersonating senior U.S. officials in an ongoing malicious text and voice messaging campaign intended to target other senior government leaders and their contacts. So this is an issue that the government is aware of. It's expanding. It's going even as high as the Secretary of State. And the FBI is saying, if you receive a message, and this is to their senior leaders, right? If you get a message, you cannot assume it's authentic.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Wow, interesting. When we come back, we're going to go back to Texas. We just can't avoid it. But hundreds of first responders are continuing to recover their recovery efforts there in Texas as more questions are being raised about warning systems and whether or not people take them seriously. We'll talk about that more after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. Salt Lake City police are looking into a crash near 7th East and 2nd South. A young driver reportedly hit 2 pedestrians in the crosswalk around 9:30 last night. One of them is in critical condition. Police say the driver stayed on scene and is working with investigators. President Trump has signed an executive order he says will improve management and access to national parks. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
President Trump is calling it the Make America Beautiful Again Commission, and in the executive order, a number of problems are mentioned, including mismanagement, regulatory overreach, and maintenance. Some of the commission goals will be to expand access to public lands and waters for hunting, fishing, and other activities, while also encouraging conservation efforts.
In 2021, Utah received no money to help with maintenance costs of national parks from the Great American Outdoors Act. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. For the first time in nearly 20 years, the TSA is supposedly ending its no-shoes policy when going through security. In a memo reviewed by ABC News, agents will no longer require passengers to take off their shoes as part of the screening process. More from ABC's Gio Benitez.
We've learned an internal memo to TSA employees this week says that the goal is to roll this out nationwide, but we don't know exactly why this change was made.
The policy started in 2006 after authorities stopped a man who tried to carry a bomb in his shoe. And your money at this moment, the Dow is down 131 points, NASDAQ up 29. Coming up, we're getting closer to triple-digit temps. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want you to know that it's the little things that count. Any remodeler can say they treat customers right when it comes to siding, gutters, windows, and exteriors. It's hard to know for sure. If a contractor uses cheap generic nails instead of super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding, would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got pretty good speeds all across the Wasatch Front. Just some occasional slowdown southbound I-15 between Kaysville and Farmington, where we have lane restrictions in place. The delays are currently not there coming out of Tooele County on SR 36 or I-80, but those two come and go as we get more traffic or less on the roadways. No matter what the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
High of 99 today. Tomorrow we'll reach triple digits, then back to the low 90s late into the weekend for the weekend. Right now it's 90 degrees and fair. I'm Jessica Lowell from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com, where Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Search and rescue operations in Central Texas entered their 5th day, Holly, on Tuesday, today, after heavy rainfall overwhelmed the Guadalupe River, sending floodwaters through homes, summer camps, and killing over 100 people. I think the death toll stands at 109, with at least 27 children and counselors from this Camp Mystic, a storied Christian girls' camp in Kerr County. And Kerr County alone has something like 87 deaths, and people are still missing. And there are a lot of concerns about the warning system and how that went out. ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Zee joined ABC's Start Here podcast and laid out exactly when the warnings went out.
The first flash flood warning goes out for Kerr County at 1:14 a.m., more than 3 hours before people are being washed downriver. I'm guessing that not many people have a way of getting that warning.
Right, the 1:14 in the morning.
At 1:14 in the morning. So one place that will go off is your cell phone, if you have the EAS turned on. It's also, do you have cell service there? We don't know the answer to that. We don't know that each pocket along this riverbed has cell service to get that EAS, that first alert 3 hours before. Now, at 4:03 a.m., a flash flood emergency is issued. And the text actually says, a wave of water is coming down this river. Catastrophic flooding expected, right? It's warning of exactly what is coming. Now, for some people, that's minutes. For some people, it's hours.
But for everyone, there was some warning, and it seems clear. But it's a good point, Holly, that a warning is only a warning if you receive it, if you get it, if somehow you have whatever is necessary. And if it's on your cell phone and you have no cell phone service.
Right. And you know, and that brings up a conversation I think that I would like to continue with you. You mentioned earlier in the show that there's like 4 levels of warnings that the National Weather Service can issue. But my question to you is, how do you, as someone in whether you're riding your bike or you're hiking or you're, you know, doing something in southern Utah or up in the high Uintas, like we're going to talk about, how do you get those messages? How do you get them?
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the National Weather Service's website. It says stay informed, and it says monitor local radar, television, weather radio, internet, or social media for updates. I guess you can. That didn't answer your question at all.
Right.
So watch for updates on the.
Right, which I think people do, right? And I think that's the question. So some people are saying in the Texas situation, well, what if they had sirens, right?
Yes.
Look, I used to live in Europe, and there were air raid sirens, and they still have them in most communities, but they use them for weather stuff now. But even my question about that, how are you going to ensure that sirens can be heard? I mean, I'm thinking in Utah, are you going to go place sirens, every so many feet or miles or whatever it is, right? In every canyon? Of course, that's not possible or practical. That's not going to happen either. So some of the question for me is, how do people best keep themselves safe when they're out in the backcountry, for example? And I want to talk a little bit about some of Utah's flash flooding. It seems like every year there are some flash floods that happen, and there is a loss of life. And if you remember last year, there was a couple in Moab, and they were off-roading, and they got caught in a flash flood. They were from Texas, and their family members said that they were prepared, but they were washed downstream, and they didn't find the wife until about a month later, but they didn't find the husband until April.
Yeah, I've never been really close to a flash flood. I was in Zion's years ago when they had a very severe rainstorm. We were in a motor vehicle on the highway itself, just watching these waterfalls and thinking anybody that's down in those canyons is in deep trouble.
Yeah.
And you can only imagine just watching that wall of water come. But Utah's unique in that our canyons are such that a little bit of rain all goes into one small area.
Right.
It's like your rain gutter coming off your house. It's water's pouring out even though it's not raining that hard outside because it's all got to go somewhere.
Right.
And in Texas, they had this huge Guadalupe River, which they had seen. They had floods before. I think there was a big one in 78, a big one that caused some loss of life in I think 87.
87,
right.
yeah.
So they knew that this river was prone to overflowing. But you said it yesterday. The storm was what they called a 1,000
Once in 1,000 years
storm.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if that's the case,
it doesn't mean, and this was one of the things that we talked about, but it doesn't mean that it happens once every 1,000 years. But it does mean that that on any given year, that's the percentage chance that you might actually have that. It's not very high, right? It's 1 in 1,000.
Right. But you would expect with what's happening with our climate, these are going to be more and more. We talked about wildfires 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about flooding today. These are things that we probably need to get used to now in our, on our planet. There's things that are changing, and I'm going to be really hesitant to blame Texas officials for not sending out warnings. On the other hand, if you've got a group of kids at a camp next to the lake, you would expect that some of their leaders would have been dialed in. And I'm not blaming them either, not for a second.
Right.
They would have been dialed into some of these. That
We
soundbite we just listened to, the first warning went out at 1:14 a.m.
Yep.
Had people left then, there wouldn't have been a loss of life, probably.
And we know that there were 750 kids at the camp, and 27 or 28 of them have died. But what that means is the vast majority were able to be rescued and evacuated safely, at least at some level. So one of the things that we've talked about, these warning systems, and that I'm really curious about your personal experience, if you get those warnings, do you pay attention?
No, I don't, and I'm guilty. I
That's
really
one of the
am.
problems,
I mean,
right?
we've got a place near Capitol Reef, which I think is one of the parks that gets the highest number of flash flood warnings.
Yeah.
And I've been in there, and I've seen the flash flood warnings, and I've thought, it's not going to happen to me. But then you watch some video of somebody's Ford Explorer riding down the river and whatever, and it's pretty frightening. And you think, if you were stuck there, plus those canyons are so narrow, it's not like you're going to get to higher ground all that easily.
Yeah.
I mean, the walls are straight up. I mean, there are little areas that you can probably jump up on, but that gets you 6, 10, 20 feet maybe. The water might overwhelm you at some point.
I think that's one of the issues, right? And I mentioned at the top of today's show that a person that I follow on social media is a storm chaser. He does this for his job, and he doesn't pay attention to them.
Right.
In fact, he says he turns them off, the flash flood warnings, because they just happen so often. And so he asked for input. He had almost 3,000 comments, and a lot of them are like, I don't pay attention to them, because so many times it doesn't result in loss of life, right? But when you're the one family whose loved ones just disappeared because they were washed off the roadway or caught in the slot canyon, then of course it's always going to change how you approach things. But that's one of the issues too. So you can have a warning, but you got to pay attention to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, the National Weather Service in the summer is telling people about flash flood warnings. The Utah Avalanche Center in the winter is telling people about avalanche danger. And I tell my wife every year, it's high avalanche danger. Somebody's going to die in Utah this week, and invariably it happens. And it's nobody's fault, but I mean, there are warnings and people are doing things, and the National Weather Service does tell you when you enter these national parks, don't go into the slot canyons, don't go into areas. You just have to take a minute and look at it before you jump into that, and watch the weather. I mean, if it looks like it's getting if you see lightning on the horizon, get out of there.
And you know, there was a bad flash flood in 2023, and they were really experienced. 2 people died, one person got rescued, but they said they had watched the local weather, but they had not watched northern Utah, and that's where the rain was, and it ended up hitting the slot canyon down where they were, and they just didn't look far enough.
Yeah. When we come back after the break, the final episode of KSL's Uinta Triangle is out today, and I'm a little bit behind. So we're not going to spoil it, but we're going to be joined in studio by host Dave Cowley to learn more about the disappearance of Eric Robinson. Stay with us.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to Soda, just amazing.
I started on Soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Hey gang, it's Big Jim Smith. I am now retired and I'm a full-time radio listener, and I'm glad I am. I had a unique situation of not being able to refi my house because I'm not employed. Despite the fact that I have lots of income, I have tons of assets, overcoming some hurdles made it impossible to get things together with banks or credit unions. So I contacted a guy I heard about right here on the radio, Rick Kirchenbaum at Loans by Rick. Best phone call I've ever made. Rick and his team at Vintage Lending were able to help me overcome some incredible hurdles, how to verify my income, all the things I needed to do to get my refi together, and they got me more cash out of my house than I expected. Do it. If you have problems getting your financing together, call Loans by Rick. You can trust Rick Kirchenbaum, Loans by Rick, and Vintage Lending. He is NMLS number 241179. Call him directly at 801-809-7283. That's 801-809-7283. Tell him Big Jim sent you. Loans by Rick.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery. so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Hi, Grandma. Can Nina come over for dinner?
Sure. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
If anyone ever does, I want you to say, no, I have too much respect for my family and I don't want to get in trouble.
I promise, Grandma.
They really do hear you. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Inside Sources.
I have to thank our next guest, Holly, because usually on 3-day weekends, my wife and I drive down to our little place in Torrey, and it's a long drive. And she always has to listen to the classic rock station, and she despises it. So this year, we decided to listen to the KSL podcast, Uinta Triangle. Now, I'm not finished, Dave, so we're going to introduce our next guest in just a minute. But we got pretty far through it, and she started out like, what are we listening to? And then she's like, hey, can we listen to another episode?
Yeah.
Hey, we've got another hour. Let's listen to another episode. And we're not finished, although you've sort of created the end of it. Is that correct? We're at the end.
Yeah, we're at the point in the story in the Uinta Triangle podcast now where we just released our final episode this morning.
Right.
And I think a lot of people along the way have thought we had false endings previously, but I can tell you this is the final one.
The final.
And it really does kind of wrap the story together, right? This was an investigation into the 2011 disappearance of an Australian trekker named Eric Robinson in the Uinta Mountains here in Utah. And over the course of these 9 episodes that are all out now, we follow his wife Marilyn primarily as she goes through, his disappearance, traveling to Utah, taking part in this search and rescue back in 2011, and that resulted in no discovery in this open question for a long, long time about what had happened to him. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, in the later episodes in the series, we bring some answers and help her find that kind of finality. And today's episode 9, is really special to me. I don't want to spoil too much for you, Greg, but
don't.
Marilyn had the opportunity to go on what I call a pilgrimage at the end of this story, and to be surrounded by other people who were part of her journey that helped support and bring her to a place. And it was just, for me as a journalist, a very special thing to be a part of, and now I get to share it with you.
Yeah, and it was interesting because we've gotten to know a lot of people along the way that he had met on various hikes, even unrelated to the Uintas. I mean, just and you followed those people as they've come in and out of his life. Even one lost his life, and I don't want to spoil that too much. But but other things that have happened, and so I can only imagine what it would have been like for some of these people to just sit down and talk and go over what's happened here. And I don't know where we are. I'm only at episode 4, so I still got a ways to go. But I'm intrigued by the whole thing. I really am, and I have to hand it to you. It had to be a tremendous amount of work. I mean, it must have taken you years to put this together.
It really has been a passion project of mine. I mean, the bosses here at KSL can tell you this is a story that I advocated for a long, long time, because I felt that it was important not only for those of us in Utah who live here, who, we see these cases happen all the time, or at least, with some frequency, where people go missing in our mountains. And oftentimes, most times they're found, but there are these few cases where they're not. And I feel like we have a responsibility in the world of journalism to dig into those and try to answer the questions about what happened to these people and take what lessons we can away.
Yeah.
In this final episode that came out today, Holly, you and I were talking during the break about the fact that heat and hiking in the heat was a big part of this final episode, and that's something we're seeing right now. We know that people, they want to go out. If you go down to Torrey in June or July, you're going to deal with this heat. And so we can talk a little bit along the way of this broader story about how do you deal with some of these challenges? How do we learn from what happened here?
Yeah, and we didn't have a chance to introduce you all the way. We're talking with Dave Colley. He's the host of the KSL podcast, You Went to Triangle, and the Cold podcast, by the way. One of the questions that I had for you was hiking in the heat, but also related to what we've been talking about today. We've been talking about the warning system in Texas. And what do you do for emergency notification if you run into a problem, right, as you're a hiker? And I know that part of your story is that Eric Robinson did have something with him, but he wasn't able to use it.
Yeah. So we know Eric Robinson was carrying one of these GPS devices where you hit a panic button, it's going to send a message out and summon search and rescue. And so when he disappeared and there was no beacon signal, the question was, well, gosh, what could stop a person in that kind of crisis situation from pressing a button? What's happening in Texas is just absolutely horrifying, and it is just heartbreaking. We know that early notification, early warning is critical. If conditions are going to be such that ahead of time storm is in the area, taking those precautions to be on high ground. In the mountains here, we deal with lightning, right? Avoiding lightning danger. High heat down in the southern Utah area, you've got to carry enough water. You've got to hike during times of day where that's not going to be a problem. But also having the ability to summon help if it's with a beacon, or when I did this, you went to Highline Trek following Eric Robinson's footsteps. One of the deals that I made with the bosses here at KSL was I will carry a device that every hour is pinging a satellite and saying, here's where I am, so that they could follow in practically real time. Okay.
Because you hiked by yourself as well.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so having those discussions beforehand, letting somebody know when you expect to be back, what to do if you're not, back on time, and recognizing that when we put search and rescue in a place of having to come find us, those are people that are leaving their own homes and families to also go out into dangerous conditions. And so, as a backcountry traveler, I want to be responsible. I want to make sure that I'm not putting other people at risk, and it's all part of just making sure that we're taking those precautions.
Yeah.
Dave, I do a lot of backcountry skiing, and we carry beacons, we carry these Reco devices. There are things that you have and that you use so that if you're lost, you can be found. But another thing that I think skiers do that maybe hikers don't is always travel with a companion. And I think you've described this really well, that some of the beauty of hiking alone is that peace that you get. And you hiked alone, and Eric hiked alone. But I mean, I haven't got to my question yet. But I mean, that's something that isn't necessarily discouraged in the same way it would be with backcountry skiing, it seems.
And so I have a similar perspective when it comes to whitewater paddling. I do a little bit of whitewater travel, and that is something I will not do alone because the risks are greater. Generally hiking is a pretty safe activity. There are hazards, and we don't intend to mitigate downplay those, but there are things you can do to mitigate those risks, right? And it's some of that same stuff I'm talking about. Look, solo hiking is not for everybody. And, Eric Robinson was somebody who built that skill over time. And I thought one of the reasons I wanted to tell his story was because a lot of people will look at that and go, well, that was irresponsible. He shouldn't have done that. I wanted to give the man some respect and tell the story in a way that allows us to see it from his perspective and to recognize that, sometimes people have hobbies, they have passions that do involve putting themselves in risky situations. What can we learn from what happened to Eric?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the more I've listened to your podcast, the more I have considered hiking alone. It does seem like I don't know what the word is, romantic. It seems like a really spiritual, I don't know.
Yeah.
It intrigues me, and you've done it. I mean,
I have, but I'm also aware. So I just came back. I was over the 4th of July weekend up in Yellowstone.
Right.
And, that's a place where they say, do not solo hike because of the bear danger.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I want to be careful with telling this story that I'm not, luring people to do something dangerous. But, yes, there is something that for me is just magical about being in the outdoors alone. I don't always want to be out there alone, but I do cherish those experiences. And if the podcast helps somebody experience that, that's wonderful.
I think one of the things that you're just really a phenomenal storyteller, and so just really grabbed me from the very first episode, which I didn't start until after I talked to you, and then I completely caught up and caught up through today. But you mentioned in last week's episode, so I don't think there's a spoiler here except for maybe Greg, but there was something that was found that changed really the story of what happened to Eric, at least in your mind, it sounds like. And while we can't really know for sure, do you want to share with our listeners what that was?
Yeah. So in doing the investigation into this case, I discovered that the place where Eric came to rest, where we know he lost his life, it's on a slope below some cliffs. And when his remains were recovered, the Summit County Sheriff's Office found a tattered old rope connected to these rocks in the cliffs above where he fell. And that was not disclosed at the time his remains were recovered. And so when I came across that in the records and I saw it in photos, it made me realize, Eric probably saw that rope, and whether he used it or not to try to descend these cliffs, it's in a direct line above where he came to rest. And so, there is a person out there who placed that rope in those rocks that may not realize that was there and contributed, I believe, personally, to Eric's fall. So, we've published some photos with stories that we've published here for KSL about that. And if anybody has information about how that rope came to be, in these cliffs, in this very obscure area, I would really like to hear about it.
Somebody doing some climbing and not realizing they created a temptation for other subsequent hikers and climbers to do something that maybe wasn't safe at the time. Well, that was Dave Cowley. Thank you for joining us. And I am going to finish, but we're going to bring you back after I finish because I have a lot of other questions I want to ask you. When we come back after the break, Amazon Prime Day or week is among us. With many Americans reporting financial hardship, I was shocked to see the estimated spending expected for Prime Day. More details next.
.30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. SNAP cuts could turn more families toward food bank and pantries. Utah Food Bank President and CEO Jeanette Bott tells Inside Sources this could lead to some major problems.
We distributed more food this year than we ever have, even during COVID. So the need is high before this bill went into place.
Bott says the food bank is here to supplement a family, not take care of them as a whole. And for every one meal the food bank can provide, SNAP can provide 9. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Amazon Prime Day has begun and it lasts all week.
No surprise, Amazon's own line of tech devices are among the most steeply discounted items this Prime Day. The Echo Buds earbuds usually go for $50, but this week they're just $14.99. Amazon's latest e-ink device, the Kindle Scribe, is 35% off at $260. Meanwhile, Apple products like the base model iPad can be had for about $70 off. The AirPods Max over-ear headphones are almost 30% off. Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
Your money at this moment. The Dow is down 130 points. The S&P is up 1 point. And coming up, high temperatures with a bit of breeze. KSL Weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
If you're a medical, wellness, or aesthetics practice owner who wants to enhance your profits and practice valuation while reducing your workload, this is a message you'll want to hear. The Hamlin Business Institute is holding the most transformative business class you'll ever take on Friday, August 1st in Salt Lake City. As a practice owner, this class can literally change your life and revolutionize your practice. With a 5-star Google review rating and certification by the DOPL for select professions, this class is meticulously crafted to meet your specific needs. Their previous participants rave about their experience. A staggering 96% are interested in additional classes from Hamlin Business Institute. 100% 100% would recommend this class, and more than 3/4 said it was the most beneficial continuing education class they have ever taken. Sign up before July 20th and get a 40% discount with the code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com. That's code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com. Code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com.
Can we talk about something difficult to discuss? Are you going through a difficult financial time? You have equity in your home, but nobody can help? American Home Loans has created the Bridge Loan Program to use your equity regardless of your credit at this time. The bridge loan can be used to pay debts, collections, IRS liens, divorce settlements, or home improvements. Call at 801-262-2221. That's 262-2221. This loan creates a bridge between now and a much brighter future. After COVID, one of their clients had over $85,000 in credit cards. Their scores were too low to borrow on their home. American Home Loans was able to save them $2,000 a month. And after 8 months, they qualified for a conventional loan and lowered their payments. The consultation is free and confidential. Please call them and see what they can do for you. The number is 801-262-2221. It's 262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com. AmericanHomeLoans.com. NMLS 245422, Equal Housing Lender.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Ricky Meese.
Valley Freeways, we do have the final cleanup of a crash downtown at West Temple and 3rd South. And in Weber County, a crash blocking lanes of travel southbound. This is going to be in the Ogden area, Washington Boulevard at 20th Street. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 99 degrees today with sunny skies. We could hit 100 degrees tomorrow with the breeze that continues into Thursday. Right now it is 93 and fair. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Today marks the beginning of Amazon Prime Day. I should say it is Amazon Prime Day, but you just informed me that Amazon Prime Day actually goes for 3 or 4 days. Yeah, 96 hours. It's expected to lift U.S. online sales to $23.8 billion, according to estimates from Adobe. Do you take advantage of Prime Day?
Well, here's the thing. I actually have a Prime membership, so every time I order from Amazon, it's Prime Day.
It's Prime Day for you. Yeah, my wife does too. In fact, every day when I get home from work, there's a box on the doorstep. And I say, what is this? She goes, I don't remember.
I know. I have that problem too sometimes, especially as we get close to the holidays. And, what's funny is I used to just use it occasionally, but during the pandemic, I started ordering more and more online. And I never really started the grocery thing, but I have family members who are like, I get all my groceries delivered, right? I just order online and they show up. Magic.
Yeah, so we're lucky to have with us this morning Mike Dubusky, ABC News technology reporter from New York. Mike, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, of course. Glad to be here.
It's not morning where you are anymore, but it still is in the West.
Lunchtime, kind of.
Lunchtime-ish, yeah. What can you tell us about Amazon Prime Day or 3 days?
Yeah, it's actually 4 days this
4
week,
days.
so they're really stretching the definition of what Amazon Prime Day is. It's more of a week, but this is the 10th anniversary of Amazon Prime Day, if you can imagine. Going back to 2015, this started as a pretty modest online sale. It was Amazon's attempt to sort of differentiate itself from some of the big retailers at the time, which usually held big sales in, obviously, the fall and the lead up to the holidays, but also in the springtime as well. They saw the middle of the summer as this way to kind of get out and stake a claim in a part of the year that no one else was really doing these big sales, and it's been a huge success for them. It expanded from 1 to 2 days. Obviously, now it's 4 days. There are 2 Amazon Prime days per year. There's another one that happens in the fall. And now, with the extra time that people have to score some deals during Amazon Prime Day, we are expecting Amazon to rake in more money. No surprise here, guys. Adobe Analytics predicts that $23.8 billion will be spent during Prime Day this week. And that is not only on Amazon. The popularity of Prime Day has spawned competing sales around this time of year, really has made the sort of 4th of July, middle of the summer sort of time slot this really, really attractive time for online sales. So we see Walmart offer Walmart Deals events, and then Target Circle Week is a similar sort of idea. Best Buy has Black Friday in July. Old Navy, Madewell, tons of others are hosting big sales. The bottom line is, if you're thinking about doing some online shopping, particularly in the tech, apparel, or cosmetics sort of world, now is the time to buy.
So if you are looking at some tech items, Mike, what can you expect to go on sale? What type of items? Or is it a broad range?
So 2 things on that. One, it's kind of difficult to predict with regards to Amazon specifically because you don't know what's going to be on sale until it is on sale. And despite the fact that there are sales going on all through the week, there are also what are known as lightning deals, which are these sort of time-limited sales that are only available for a couple hours at a time. But when we talk about tech, especially for the last few years, the general advisement has been to not spend money on the mainline tech devices, right? Skip the phones, skip the laptops, try and buy like headphones or chargers or wearable technology, the sort of ancillary stuff that complements your mainline tech devices. That used to be the general standard of advice. However, recently we've seen huge discounts on those mainline tech devices. I'm actually looking here at a 75-inch Samsung QLED TV. This is the frame. This is the one that has the sort of matte finish that's designed to kind of look like a picture frame. This is half off. This is normally a about $3,000 television. You can get it now for closer to $1,500, and that is some pretty significant savings. We're also seeing prices be slashed in the smartphone market as well. Samsung's S25 Ultra, which is their top of the line smartphone, it's only a couple months old at this point, can be had for $950. That is normally a $1,300 device.
So it sounds to me like Christmas in July.
That is kind of the idea. Yeah, that's what is the idea behind this, is to kind of get people excited about Amazon rolling out a whole bunch of other things to kind of get people's attention and maybe, push back on some of the other sales that we've seen crop up from some of their competitors. So LeBron James was all over the commercials for Amazon Prime Day. They've rolled out an AI shopping assistant called Rufus, which can answer questions about certain products that you might be looking at. Things like, what material is this backpack made out of? How good are the speakers on this TV? That type of thing. So they're really trying to throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. At the end of the day, though, Prime Day for Amazon is all about Prime subscriptions, right? It's not about necessarily selling a ton of product. Of course, that's important as well. But Prime subscriptions are the only way that you can take part in Amazon Prime Day, right? You have to sign up for their monthly service. And recently, according to Numerate, which was paying attention to this, they found that 86% of people who took part in Prime Day last year already had an Amazon Prime subscription. They're not making as many new signups, given that Amazon Prime Day is so popular, which means that this company is either going to have to find a new audience for their subscriptions, or they're going to have to raise prices going forward.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier competitors, Mike, with Amazon, and I hadn't thought of that, but you mentioned Walmart. There are others. Are they, well, first of all, tell us who some of those are. You did mention a few. And are they part of this Prime Day? Are they all jumping on the bandwagon here?
Yeah, their events are not called Prime Day necessarily, but they're holding sales around this time of year. It's their sort of take on Prime Day, it's fair to say. So as we said, Best Buy has Black Friday in July. Target Circle Week is another one that has gotten really popular in recent years. And then Walmart's version is called Walmart Deals. One I was looking at, just to kind of stick on the tech beat here for a moment, is on Best Buy's website, a Dell Inspiron 15-inch touchscreen laptop. This has an Intel Core i5. It's got 8 gigabytes of memory, 512 gigabytes of storage. This is a pretty nice laptop, pretty well-reviewed Windows laptop. Normally goes for about $630, can be had now for under $350. That's almost $300 in savings right there. So a lot of these sort of mainline retailers who we would normally associate with the big box stores are offering these sort of online deals just to kind of capitalize on the excitement around Amazon right now.
Yeah, so whether it's Christmas or getting ready for back to school, it sounds like these are actually some really good deals for people to be looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's worth mentioning that people don't have a ton of brand loyalty to Amazon specifically, right? They're the big player around this time of year. But last year, we found that, again, from that Numerate study, that 35% of people who took part in Amazon Prime Day also shopped at Target and also shopped at Walmart. And that number was 12% for people also shopping at Best Buy. So people kind of clicking around, seeing where the deals are. They don't necessarily care where they take advantage of a deal. They just care that they're, saving a fair amount of money here. So that's another challenge for Amazon going forward.
So we've only got about a minute left, Mike, but are there limits to what you can get on Amazon still? Like, for example, can you buy a car?
You can buy a car now. Actually,
I
would argue that they've reversed. It's becoming less limited as time goes on. Hyundai announced this big partnership with Amazon, I believe it was last year, where you can actually now buy a car, full car. So everything from an Elantra all the way up to a Palisade you can get on Amazon. Of course, you have to go to the dealer to collect it. So the dealers still play a role here. But yeah, whole checkout process, whole payment process can be handled through Amazon if that is what you want.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It really is the everything store.
Yeah,
truly.
You see their trucks everywhere. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, guys.
That was Mike Dubusky, ABC News technology reporter from New York, talking to us about Amazon Prime Day, which is upon us and doesn't end until Friday. It's actually a 96-hour day. When we come back after the break, there's a treasure hunt underway in Utah, and $25,000 is up for grabs. We're going to learn more about that treasure hunt and its organizers after the break.
HomeAffordable.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Treasury HUD and the Ad Council.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union, and guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
You can win a $1,500 Disney gift card by donating with ARUP Blood Services this summer. And Amazon gift cards are given out daily. Summer is a time for fun for everyone, and ARUP Blood Services is here to help the community stay safe and enjoy the season. Did you know the need for blood increases significantly during summer months when people become more active with hiking, boating, blading, skateboarding? And ARUP is always there to help when someone is in need. That means the hospitals need you even more for blood donations. ARUP Blood Services is here locally in Utah to help. Donating with ARUP Blood Services ensures 100% of your donation stays here for patients that need it most. Can you spare 20 to 30 minutes to save a life? Make summer fun for everyone with ARUP, with a chance to win a $1,500 Disney gift card. Visit ARUP at utahblood.org for details, donation times, and more. utahblood.org or call 801-584-5272.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Bank of America has served customers for over a century, continuing to support its employees, clients, and communities. Whatever financial goals their clients have, they're committed to helping them succeed. Utah Market Executive Kate Moss joins us with more.
At Bank of America, we're dedicated to helping Utah thrive. Through our local presence in Salt Lake City and beyond, we provide personalized banking, lending, and investing solutions tailored to meet the needs of individuals, families, and businesses. Our commitment extends beyond banking services. We invest in Utah's future by supporting community partnerships, job training programs, and initiatives aimed at addressing affordable housing and aiding small business growth. Programs like Student Leaders offer high school students leadership training and valuable work experience, fostering the next generation of community leaders. We're also proud to support local nonprofits through our Neighborhood Builders program, providing grants and leadership development to organizations driving economic mobility in Utah. By partnering with local leaders and organizations, we strive to drive meaningful, lasting change in every Utah community we serve. Learn more about our efforts and how we are making a difference at bankofamerica.com.
Bank of America offers a wide range of services from personal banking to small business support. With a strong community focus and commitment to customer success, they continue to help individuals and businesses achieve their financial goals with confidence. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
And expanded Inside Sources.
There is a treasure hunt underway in Utah right now, and $25,000 is up for grabs. That was Bruno Mars with something called Treasure, so that's very appropriate. Do you like treasure hunts, Holly?
Yes. Although I don't really have any experience with going on an actual treasure hunt.
I don't have any experience winning or finding anything under a treasure hunt, but I think they're a blast. We have the organizer of the Utah Treasure Hunt, David Klein, with us. David, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me on.
So Holly tells me this is the 10th annual.
I did not say that. I said it started during COVID.
Oh, okay. Started during COVID. It's like at least the 5th or 6th annual.
Yeah, this is our 6th annual hunt that we've done during the summer.
Okay, well, tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's free and open for anybody. We pretty much write a poem, and over the years it's grown a lot. So outsmarting 100,000 people and AI is getting tougher and tougher every year. So, some of the clues in the poem are a little subjective. It's a little tricky, but a team or an individual or a family, some friends, they can kind of use the hints in the poem and just find a chest hidden somewhere in the wilderness.
So tell us a little bit about how you got this started and why.
Yeah, it was back in 2020 during COVID, and I just felt like morale as a society was just down, and so I called my friend John, who he's the co-host with me. We've been doing this together for the last 6 years. Because he was the only friend. Long story short, I wanted to do $5,000 for the first hunt back in 2020, and I told my wife about it, and she's like, "Yeah, you're not just burying $5,000 in the woods, so you need to go find a friend to split it with you." And so I went through all the contacts in my phone, and John was the only one crazy enough that I saw his name and instantly knew he was in. And so I called him, and he's like, "That's the coolest thing I've ever heard. Let's do it." And so kind of the rest is history.
So tell us about it. You have a poem. And you're going to publish that at some point, which has all of the clues you need, or are there subsequent poems, or tell us how that works.
Yeah, so it actually started on last Saturday, so the hunt's been going on since noon on Saturday. And theoretically, a team or a person could just use the poem as is to find the chest, but just to make sure that it kind of ends before school starts, we release a weekly clue on Friday to our email list. So if anyone wants to kind of participate, or there's a lot of people that, from all over the world that kind of just tune in, they like to kind of see the progress of it. And so just our website, UtahTreasureHunts.com, you can just kind of subscribe to the email list and get the weekly clue every Friday. We blast that out.
So I wanted to ask you about that very first one. Was it literally a treasure chest, and where did you end up putting that first one?
Yeah, so I'm from Conwood Heights, and so in high school, all my friends loved Rocky Mouth Trail, and so the very first one was up Rocky Mouth, and we kind of underestimated just how talented and smart people are, and so we thought it would take all summer to find, and it was found in 3 days.
Oh.
So the very first year, we kind of learned our lesson that you can't underestimate the public at large, because they'll just trounce you every single time. So we were humbled. Yeah, it took less than 72 hours for someone to find it the first year. So, and then we never know. Sometimes we think we're really clever, and then we're not. So, this one could be found today. It could be found in August. We don't know. So every year is kind of a fun, adventure for us too.
So describe the pot of gold. What is it that people are looking for?
So it's literally a treasure chest. It's there's lots of pictures of it, like on social media and stuff. But it's just a wooden treasure chest. And, originally we did hide the whole amount of money in the chest. But in subsequent years, we're just thinking, what if, somehow a mouse gets into the chest and shreds $25,000 to make a nest. So there is money in it, but essentially there's money and a note that says, "Hey, congratulations for finding this. You won. Give us a call, and we'll wire you the rest." Just so we can sleep better at night.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Wow. Yeah. Tell me, how is this funded now? Are you still are you paying out of pocket for this? Do you have donors who can give you, the part of the pot?
Yeah. So over the years, we've kind of done both. A lot of it's come out of pocket through our we do real estate, and so a lot of it was funded through kind of our real estate business. I think, I haven't done the math recently, but I think to date we've given away probably between $250,000 and $300,000 just over the last 6 years. And, but yeah, some hunts we have some great sponsors that come in. We have a lot of friends that own some great companies that have helped out. But our dream, I think, is just to have some very wealthy benefactor that is just a fan that can just kind of privately fund these, because it's, real estate's been tough the last couple of years. So, and partly we usually start this hunt at the end of May, around Memorial Day, but just because of, circumstances that we had to wait a month. So it was a month late, but we're happy to do it because, there's so many people that kind of look forward to this every year. It almost feels like it wouldn't be summer in Utah without this treasure hunt. So we're just kind of happy to have it, be able to do it again this year.
We're speaking this morning with David Klein, organizer of the Utah Treasure Hunt. Where can our listeners find the poem and information about your hunt, David?
Yeah, probably the best two places are on the website, UtahTreasureHunts.com. And then, every single day there's, 50 or 100 different groups of hunters out there looking for it, and they'll tag us on social media. So we repost kind of, their story, and so Instagram also. So John's Instagram is On The John, and ours is the Klein Fam.
Sounds interesting. Well, thank you for joining us, David.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to look that up, UtahTreasureHunt.com.
And if we have any listeners who are wealthy who want to participate, here's your open invitation.
Yeah, we could have the $250,000 treasure hunt next year. Yeah, it sounds fun, actually. Like I said, I'm really, really poor at treasure hunts, but they're interesting. So tell us, what is our theme? Or
so
where are we
fun
going today?
facts of the day. I have a couple for you today. So first of all, I have to tell you a story. So you've been a parent. I was a parent. When my first child was learning to speak, he started asking for razor ducks, and I had no idea what he was talking about, right?
I still don't.
Right. That's part of the story. So kids, as they start to learn to talk, they sometimes don't get their words quite right. So we one day were over by the freezer and opened the freezer, and he said, razor duck, and it was one of those freezer pops that were in the freezer, right, just in the plastic thing. And we call them freezer sticks. But today is actually National Freezer Pop Day. But the family lore is they're razor ducks because of our 1-year-old.
Do we even know where that came from?
No.
Razor ducks?
No, it's just how he interpreted what we were saying is it turned out razor ducks.
So I call them popsicles.
Popsicles to me have a stick, and they're kind of different. So these are the ones that are like the juice. They make a huge mess.
Right,
You cut the end off because people leave the plastic all over. But freezer pops or Otter Pops is like the name brand.
Kid's shirt.
Yeah, right.
More
yeah,
than anything else.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So it's National Freezer Pop Day. It's National Ice Cream Sundae Day, and then
Ice Cream Sundae. Don't quit here.
Okay.
My first job in life.
Aw.
Soda jerk at Snellgroves making ice cream sundaes.
That's awesome.
Wonderful job.
That is awesome.
Yes.
And then finally, it's National Video Game Day. So this is a super popular day because video games are super popular. And it's interesting, when I, again, was raising my kids, I would tell them things like, oh my gosh, get off the computer, right? You're just playing games all the time. Well, I have a son who works for Google now, and you can say he plays games all the time. Not really. He's not a game. He does game, but that's not his job. But that has turned into professions.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh, yeah, it has. Luckily, or maybe unluckily, I sort of aged. The video game started when I was a little bit too old to jump into video games. And even though I tried, I mean, the kids.
I never really got into it, but my kids did. Yeah.
Right,
and now my grandkids are.
Yeah, and good and bad to video games. If they take up all your day, that's not so good. But if they give you some skills and get you socializing with other people, maybe it's a good idea.
So kind of related, I think we've talked a little bit about drones and how that's changed war games. But that's right. I mean, you're never going to get any skills from that. Well, actually, they did. Go figure, right?
You can fly a drone.
My goodness.
Better than anyone else. After the break, when a West Valley man is accused of firing at officers and civilians in a shootout that stretched across the valley. Midday with Maria Chaleos is up next. Stay with us on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and